I help women find independence by training them in fish farming. It's tough on my back, joints, and can cause headaches. Panadol Extra relieves multiple types of pain.
If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
I expected more from you, David.
Well, ma'am, I'm not disrespecting you.
I devoted myself looking out for you and your children, and do I get any gratitude? Of course not. She always gets the credit.
Martha worked hard to earn their love and affection. It's hard work, but you may want to try it.
That woman is very dangerous. And she's doing something to entrap my son-in-law, so I don't care how you do it, but I want every moment of that scheming woman's life to become a nightmare.
What can I do for you?
For me? Nothing really. I just came to inform you that I don't approve of someone like you. Even if you keep flirting with my father, never will you replace my mother.
Along Came Love, in association with Blue Band Peanut Butter.
Pata smartphone mpya kuanzia 20 bob daily pekee ukilipa mdogo mdogo. Weka down payment ya 1000. Lipa kuanzia 20 bob daily kwa miezi 9. Piga star 544 hash kuona kama unafaulu kupata 4G Neon Ray Pro. Si hapo Safaricom ni yako kabisa.
From far with you. I even gifted you a magnificent house. Rosa, it's the thought that counts. Please help me.
When it comes to fever, you need to be both. Panadol Baby and Infant starts to work on fever in 15 minutes and is gentle on the tummy. Panadol Baby and Infant, tough on fever, gentle on your child.
NTV, turning on your world.
Good morning. Welcome to NTV Tizi Nyumbani. My name is Peter. We have Nelly in the house. Beautiful day. Today's workout tunaanza na mguu. So we hope you're ready. If in case you don't have your water bottle with you, next to you, or a stool, I'm sure you have your couch, and I'm sure you have your gym mat right next to you. If you have all those stuff, let's get started. Our first warm up, we're doing 15 jumping jacks. So Nelly, let's go. 15, 1, 2, let's start. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those are 10, 5 to go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. From there, tunaingia high knees for 15 reps. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 5 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Last one, tunaingia pop squat. Here unavuza chini and you come back, okay? We ready? Let's go. 1, 2, 3. Just getting warmed up. In case you're just joining in, welcome on board. Get yourself warmed up. Have your water bottle with you. We might need it. You might not necessarily have to use it, but if you have your 3 liter with you, kindly get it, put it close to you. Your stool or even your couch will do the purpose. And your gym mat, and we are good to go. So from the left, we're still warming up. How many? 1 more. And last one. Good job. From there, our first workout. We're doing a close and wide stance squat. Nelly will demonstrate the first workout. Now check. Let's go, Nelly. In and out. In and out. So the difference with the squat is basically your feet. Your feet are facing one way, mbele, zote, then you face them widely outward. Okay? So mbele and outward. Okay? We're doing 12 reps. Are you ready, Nelly? And number 2, we are not coming all the way up. So it's just basically here, here, and here. There. So you're just swinging around there. 12 reps. Let's get started. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 to go. 6 more. 7, 8, 9. Those are 10, 2 more. And 1 and 2. Good job. Relax, kidogo. 10 seconds breather. Second workout, tunaingia sumo squat. Okay, sumo squat is a wide stance squat. So fungua miguu. You're going to have your bottle with you here. In case you don't have it, ni sawa. It's not a must use a water bottle. The body weight can also be adequate for now. So unashikilia chupa katikati, then you're squatting there, then you come up. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're doing 12 reps. Are you ready? Ready, you good? Let's go. Let's start it. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, push it, 9, push it, 10, 1 and 2. Good job. Relax, lay down. From there, next workout, tunaingia close and wide stance lunges. Okay, Nelly, facing that side, please demonstrate for us. Look at the lunge. Nelly, come back, just perfect there. Let's go. Out, then in. So it's only the back leg that is moving in and out. Okay, in and out. The stance only changes with the leg, the back leg only. The front leg still remains stagnant at the same place. Are we ready? You good? Yeah. 12, then you ready? Yeah. Let's go. 1, 2. Good, take the knee down. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Push it, push it. 8, 9, 10. Two more, then you do good. 1 and 2. Relax, 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 relax. Change the other leg. Same. 12 reps. Let's get started. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Push it. 8, 9, 10. 2 more. 1 and 2. Good job. Perfect. Now, the next squat, I think all of us, even us as fitness trainers, all of us want to make sure that we can actually do one pistol squat. Now, a pistol squat is basically a one-legged squat. For the professionals who are quite good at these, you can actually go all the way down. I can't. Then you come up. So now, because this is for you at home, and I understand that sometimes you may not be on the same level. This is why we need our seat or your couch. So you're going to lift one leg up, you sit, then you come back up. You sit, you come back up. Okay, so that's how we're going to practice our pistol squat for now. For those who can do with one leg and still go all the way down, hongera sana, uko mbele yangu by far, and please, let's keep it up. So Nelly, we're doing 12 reps. We're starting with right leg. You ready? Miguu imeanza kubana. Haya, twende basi. 12 reps. Let's go. 1. Sit, then come up. 1. Good job. 2. 3. Twende kazi. 4. You doing it? 5. 6. 7. 8, push it. Those are 9, 20, those are 10. 2 more reps. You can do it. That's 1. Give me the last one. And that's 2. Good job. Relax. We change to go to the other leg. Same concept. Pistol squat. We modified it to us using the bench. You can use your couch. You can use your table. What you have accessible to you, kindly use it. Okay? Boris, if you can make sure it's not something that can break. You don't want damages. You okay? You change the other leg. Let's start 1. Let's go 2. Sorry, balance. 2. Good. Let's go 3. Good. Give me 4. Give me 5. Let's go 6. Give me 7. Let's go 8. Let's go for 9. Let's go 10. 2 more reps. Let's go 1, And last one. And relax is on the floor. Perfect. As Mary takes a break, as you also catch a break, our next workout, we're going to do a side raise. So you're going to be here, you're going to be raising your leg on the side. Then immediately when it comes back, this is the upper. So it go out, comes back to a curtsy position, then back. Okay, so it's one movement. There, goes back to curtsy, curtsy to side, side to curtsy lunge. Alright? You can relax your arms anywhere, you can put them on the waistline to give you more coordination, more balance, or you can just free them out. Nelly, you ready? Ready? Alright, perfect. Let's get started. 12. Let's go. 1. Take your time, easy. 2. 3. Good job. 4. Push it. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. 2 more. That's 1. Last count. That's 2. Good job. Perfect. 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 Relax. So this time you're facing me. You're balancing the other leg. Are we okay? Hiyo ni mguu moja tu balance mguu mwingine. Then you ready to start? Good job. Let's go. And back. 1. Sorry. It's okay. Take your time. 2. 3. Take your time. Good. 4. It's okay. Sorry. 5. Good job. 6. Good job. 7. Let's go. Let's go. 8. Push it. Those are 9. Those are 10. 20. Back. 11. Last one. And those are 12. Good job. Good job. Relax those legs. Relax those legs. So this one is the easiest. Tunaketi. Tunapiga magoti. So we're finishing off with a fire hydrant and a kickback. Okay, so we're combining them as one. So we're doing 12 reps as well. So 1 fire hydrant and 1 kickback counts as 1 count. Then you good. So use this, place this on your knees.
My legs are burning.
How are your legs feeling? Let me complain. Let me just move back this side a bit. Yes, perfect. How are your legs feeling? I hope they're equally feeling as Nelly's legs. Mine are fresh. You good?
Yes.
You okay?
Yeah.
Are you ready? Can we get started? Let me just come here, Nelly. Now let's go. Hapa tuna focus on the glutes. Okay? So twende kazi. 1. 2. Toa kabisa. Fire hydrant kabisa. Perfect. 3. Good job. Let's go. 4. Push it. 5. Just kick it up. Kick it up. Kick it up. 6. 7. 8. 9. I'm going to 10. 2 more. 2 more. 2 more. 1. 2. Perfect. Maybe. Let's face the other side. We balance the other leg. Where I'm changing that is to make sure that you are able to observe what we are doing. Okay. Look, when you make a mikono zake chini, it's the elbows down on the floor. If you're not comfortable with that, you can still pull your palm, put your palms down. But I prefer what she's doing. Put your elbows down. Okay. Now you ready to start?
Yes.
Let's go. 1. 1. Good. Push it. 2. Good job. 3. 4. Those are 5 in the left. Those are 6. 6 to go. Those are 7. 8. 9. Those are 10. Good job. 2 more reps. 2 more reps. That's 11. Give me the last one. And that's 12. Good job. Relax. So we're done with the first set. Relax for 30 seconds. We start our second set. How are you feeling, Nelly? Nelly lazima miguu zake bado zina power sana. It's like you have not even started working out. I hope you resonate and I hope the workout is serving you right. Okay? legs. Kidogo. A few more seconds. A few more seconds. Let me check. Yeah, a few more seconds. I'll add it up. 5 more seconds. Then we get started with the second set. Okay? Remember, you can access this workout on Facebook, MTV page, download the workout, or even on Emperor Fitness page on YouTube. Access the workout, download it, do it at home, do it at your convenience in terms of hours. Repeat it as many times as possible. Do a minimum of 4 sets, okay? It's a good workout for legs. Minimal equipment, actually nil equipment. Good stuff, Nelly. I hope you're ready. So we're going back to our first workout. We're going to doing a close stance, a close and wide stance squat. Remember the variation of the legs was basically your feet are facing forward, then they face sideways. Forward and widely out. Okay? That's why we're variating the wideness. You ready? Yes. Let's go. 12 reps. Let's get started. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good job. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those are 10. 2 more reps. 1, and that's 2. Good job. Good job. Relax. From there to the sumo squat back again. Back to sumo squat. Water bottle out. Upper katikati ya miguu. Legs widely open. Up, a long wide stance. Hold your bottle and go the way down. Then come back up for 12 reps. You ready, Nelly?
Yes.
Are you ready? When you get started? Awesome. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Push it. Push yourself. 8, 9. Those are 10. You see, cheat. Don't cheat. 2 more. 2 more. Let's go. 1. Good. Give me the last one. Good job. Remember, it's about progress, not perfection. Eh? It's about progress. From there, from back again to close and wide stance lunges. Remember, the variation is with the back leg. The back leg goes in and goes back widely out backwards. Okay? And you still remain the same posture of making sure that the knee goes down. Then you ready? Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Look at how the knee is moving. Mbele alafu narudi nyuma so that you're able to create that wide stance. Okay? Okay? 9, 10. 2 more. 1 and 2. Good job. Relax. Good job. Good job, baby. Good job to you. Good job. Good job. Good job. Good job. 12 reps on the other leg. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, okay. How can you not be okay? You definitely are okay. Are you okay? Good job. 12 reps. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. That's 4. That's 5. That's 6. Push it. That's 7. 5 to go. I know. Let's go, Nelly. Still have our count. Proceed with your count. Those are 8. With me and Nelly, you're 9. I hope you're on your 10. Those are 10. 2 more. 11. And that's 12. Nelly, I'm a cheat kidogo, but it's okay. I understand. So from there, from the lunge, we're going to the pistol squat. Same. Use your couch, use your table, use the stool. If you can do it without any support, any assistance, you're able to go down, even better for you. We're doing 12 reps. You ready, Nelly? Let's go. That's 1. That's 2. Those are 3. Good job. Let's go. Those are 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 4 more. Those are 9. 10. 2 more reps. That's 11. And to the last one, that's 12. Good job. So we balance the other leg. Do the same thing. Are you feeling? You okay?
No.
Yeah? You're not okay?
Not okay.
Tuna strengthen movie, okay? At times, it's okay not to be okay. Alright. So let's go. 12 from the other leg. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. Push yourself. That's 4. Good job. These are 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. 2 more. 1 and 2. Good job. Perfect. Good job, lady. From there, our next workout tunaingia side raise and a curtsy lunge. Okay? The one we're doing, raise it on the side, it goes all the way back to curtsy lunges. Okay? Then from curtsy, going back out again. You ready, Nelly? Are you ready? Yes, like Nelly is saying, start with your weakest leg. Okay? Move a bit this side. Perfect. There. You ready? Sure? Are you ready? Let's get started. Perfect. Number 1. Good. It's okay. It's okay. 2. 3. Good job. Take your time. Move on your pace. These are 5. Good. Sorry, balance. Get the balance this hour. These are 7. These are 8. These are 9. These are 10. 2 more. It's 11 to the last count. And that's 12. Good job. Good job. Good job. Good job. Let's balance the other leg. Same technique. Take your time. Pole. Make sure that the workout flows. Okay. Pole. You good? Are you feeling?
Weak.
Breathe, kidogo. Breathe. I know sometimes I'm playing a marathon.
Sana.
So we're taking that small break. I hope the break has been of assistance. So let's get started again. Let's go 1. 1. Keep the leg straight. 2. Let's go. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. Push it. These are 8. Almost there. That's 9. Almost there. That's 10. 2 more counts. That's 11. Do the last one. That's 12. Good job. Relax. Take a breather for at least 30 seconds. We're going on to our last workout. We're doing the fire hydrant and the kickback. Okay? 12 reps each, both legs. Are you feeling? Another 20-second breather, then we start our last workout. Breathe. Kama uko na maji hapo, catch a glass, gargle your mouth, usikunywe sana tena. Sitaki useme tuna umeshindwa ku workout. Then we're able to proceed. Are you okay, Nelly? You need water? Are you good? Nelly's okay. Are you okay? Good stuff. Now let's get started. So we're on the fire hydrant and the donkey. Okay? Get chair goes down. Yo mguu fungua, then kick it up. You ready, Nelly? Let's go 12 reps. Let's go. That's 1. 2. 3. 4. 5. To the left. Those are 6. We are halfway. 7. 8. 8. 9. 10. Simple. That's better. Way better. 11. On the last one. That's 12. Good job. Good one. Balance the other leg. Same. Just the other side. Yes. It's okay. Sometimes mtu akichoka na sahau, so it's acceptable. Let's go. Out and kick back. That's 1. Good. Good job. Let's go. That's 2. That's 3. That's 4. Good one. 5. Those are 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 10. 2 more reps. That's 1. And that's 2. Good job, baby. Mama. How are you feeling?
I'm burning. I'm burning.
To wrap it off, we're going to do to define our calves. So we're finishing off with the calf raise. So we're doing 1 to 30 apple. Just doing a 2 Jew apple. 30 reps. We do it at least twice. Then we're done for today's class. Are you feeling?
Man, I'm tired.
Tired? Yes. Your legs are feeling it? That's a good workout. That was a good workout. You've done yourself proud. You've done yourself great. You've done your body the best service ever. So congratulations. So we get ready. You can face the wall. Good stuff. Close your legs together. Toes up. Let's go. 1, 2. Good job. 3, 4. We're doing 30, 30, 2 reps. 6, 9, 10. 1, just 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, good job. 8, 9. Those are 10, 10 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 20, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 30. Relax. So we relax for 30 seconds. Then from there, we're repeating it again. This time round, we are doing 50 reps, then we are done. Alright, 50 reps, then we stretch, and it's again. No, you hacking me. You have hacked it as well, right? So, we can all hack it. Usiuliza kwa nini mimi sifanyi. Nilikuwa nimefanya, sasa tufanye hii. Okay? Are you ready?
50.
You get started, yes, 50 reps, then we're done with the workout for today. We stretch, and I wish you all a good day, okay? Perfect, we're almost there. Let's get started. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Is that 10? 1, 2, push it. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 20, 1, hey, 1, 20, 2, that's the section I'm looking for. 4, let's go, those are 3, let's go, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, those are 30, 20 more, 1, 20 guys, don't stop, 2, 3, hey, Nelly, you stopping, Nelly, 2, 3, don't stop, Rosi, Achacha, now you have to come to 6, 7, 8, 9, those are 40. Good job. Let's go 10 more. 1, 2, 3. Good job. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You see how easy that was? Someone here is saying we repeat. We repeat.
No. I'm done for the day.
So you do a small stretch for the legs and our quads. You okay? Let's start with the quads. Good. Just pull. Pull it up. 5, 4, 3, and 2, and 1. We'll start the other leg, same. Pull it back, pull it kabisa vizuri. Uinue na juu, eh? Good job. For 5, for 4, for 3, for 2, and 1. Perfect. Twende hapa. No, try to lift it up. I can't lift it higher than that. But just try to lift it up. Bado ni kwa bado na quads. Kidogo tu for 5, for 4, 3, 2, and 1. Place it down. Toes facing up. Let's go here. For the hamstring now. Pull it in. Pull it in, pull it in, pull it in. Let's go for 5, for 4, for 3, for 2, for 1. Good job. Same. The other leg. Take it up and hold it. Let's go. Just for 5. Let's go for 5, for 4, for 3, and 2, and 1. Place it down, toes facing up, pull them in, good job, for 5, for 4, for 3, and 2, and 1, good job. From there to upper shoulder shrugs, shrug your shoulders, the other side. Go twist your neck round, don't close your eyes, the other side. Good stuff, breathe in, breathe out. Let's go, breathe in. And out. Breathe in. Out. Last one, breathe in. And out. Thank you so much for staying tuned to NTV. Have yourself a blessed day. See you tomorrow again for Majaliwa. Bye-bye.
Majab, my friend, as you wait for the call, my friend, is it just perturbing how you are that the call is going to be picked? Majab, the recipient is probably held up. In our days, we...
To get Baba Otis Maajabu by Flacco, dial star 811 star 936 hash. Skiza Non-Nation.
You need to watch your weight. And Dad, reduce fat in your meals and most importantly, check your weight.
You're asking me to calm down while your ex is literally kicking me out of my own house?
Welcome to this year's Slimming is Possible competition. The first task is to complete a very simple task of running 2-kilometer race.
What is going on here?
Either she leaves or I leave. You choose.
Did you know there's a laundry bar soap that can help save you time, water, and money? You save by not having to use multiple products. And you only rinse once. For a laundry soap that can help save you time, water, and money, try Whitewash Extra. Brand power, helping you buy better.
Breastfeeding is not only a foundation for a child's future, health, and well-being, but also a critical element of worldwide development efforts to create a healthier, prosperous, and sustainable planet. However, the COVID-19 pandemic and the resultant response actions by government have had negative effects on nursing mothers. As a result, their access to health facilities, inadequate human resource for health, leading to tasks shifting and/or burnout, have directly hampered breastfeeding education and counseling services. On Thursday, 6th August 2020, the Nation Media Group will hold a live virtual Nation Leadership Forum from 7:30 p.m. on NTV. With the help of a panel of experts, it shall delve into this year's theme of the World's Breastfeeding Week, Support Breastfeeding for a Healthier Planet, and delve into how stakeholders aim to garner support for the practice of exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months of life. Nation Leadership Forum. Engaging society, impacting the nation.
NTV, turning on your world.
Greetings, East Africa. You are just in time for a look at your world as we readjust to the new normal. Now, speaking of which, home-based care has become a household phenomenon as we continue to battle the new coronavirus pandemic. Question is, how are those isolating themselves at home faring on, and what can be done to make home-based care a concept that outlives this pandemic? Well, we answer these and other questions as we speak to COVID-19 survivors and home-based care experts on the same. My name is Gladys Gachanja, and this is what else you can expect. The home-based care initiative was rolled out a number of days back. What is the reality on the ground? Get to hear personal experiences shortly.
Thousands of migrants have died whilst crossing Africa, according to a UN report that estimates over 70 people perish each month on the continent's routes.
Thousands of Africans are dying as they're trying to get across to Europe in dangerous ways. Arizona has a unique way of testing COVID-19, a drive-through. And meet the ladies bearing the front line of the battle against COVID-19. Thank you for joining us on this broadcast. And as we mentioned earlier on, we shall be looking at home-based care. And the question of the day to you is, have you tested positive for COVID-19 and undergoing home-based care? Or are you a caregiver? Well, kindly share your home-based care experience on video using that WhatsApp number, or you can talk to us as usual on that hashtag #NewNormal on our social media platforms. And you are also welcome to give us a call on the same. And even as we await you to engage us on the same, let's look at the effects of COVID-19 around the world in terms of the numbers. And globally, those numbers stand at 18,701,672 people confirmed to have COVID-19, 11,915,331 people have recovered, and we have lost 704,365 people to COVID-19 globally. Take a look at our Kenyan scene, and 23,202 people have been confirmed to have COVID-19. Thankfully, 9,327 people have fully recovered, and 388 people have unfortunately succumbed to COVID-19 in Kenya. Those numbers keep changing, and we keep updating you on the same as and when we get to see them. Now, some stories making headlines, and in Cameroon, the Archdiocese of Douala starts the deconfinement process with the resumption of mass celebrations. These steps are being taken despite COVID-19 cases being on the rise in the country, a trend that has led the Ministry of Health to launch a large-scale screening campaign in several locations of the city of Douala. Bernard Tonya, a rector of Douala Cathedral, says baptisms as well as requiem masses and even the masses we celebrate during the week and on Sundays will be celebrated, but we are going to put barrier measures in places that is quite normal, and the reason is that the church is at the service of life. Now, Roger Eto'o, a public health physician, says we choose with the Ministry of Health teams to do a large-scale screening because we regularly screen for COVID-19 on a daily basis. This time, it is to try and do a broad sweep to try to not forget about certain cases that could be asymptomatic. Tanzanian ministers meet with artisanal miner Saniniu Laser, who has sold yet another Tanzanite stone to the government for around $2 million. Laser became an overnight multimillionaire in June after uncovering two of the biggest of a country's precious tanzanite stones ever found. That is at 9.27 and 5.1 kilograms. His latest tanzanite discovery, one of the Earth's rarest stones, weighs around 6 kilograms.
Kwa hiyo tunapojengwa kwa jinsi hii tutazidi kujengeka, na pia mawe haya tutayasimamia vizuri, na hakika tunaweza kutoa makubwa zaidi ya haya. Kodi inasaidia sisi mabarabara, tumeona lami, tumeona maendeleo, tumeona shule. Kama tuseme upande wetu wa Umasaini, sasa hivi maji, kila mtu anachota maji kwenye nyumba yake.
Wafanyakazi wakubwa ni sisi, tunaenda chini. Hizi 10% hazitoke kwa wakati, ndio tulikuwa tunaomba hilo kwa jiwe kama hili, mawe yanavyotoka zile 10% zetu tuzipate kwa wakati, kwa sababu na sisi tuna familia. Matajiri wengi wamekuwa sio waaminifu, hawatoi zile pesa.
Kwa hiyo biashara kama hii inapofanyika, angalau wangeangalia na wenyewe waweze kuharakishiwa zile 10% zao, kwani hata wenyewe wamefanya kazi kwa bidii mpaka kupatikana, lakini wafanyakazi wamesaulika.
Bilioni 4 milioni 800.
Elsewhere, the common carp, an invasive fish species in South Africa, has turned into an unlikely food source for needy coastal communities stretched under coronavirus restrictions. With South Africa's lockdown now in its 5th month, fish from a lake in that country are helping feed around 250 people per day.
We have a program where we eradicate common carp for the benefit of biodiversity here in the Vlei, in Groenvlei. And the second facet of the project is that the carp that we take out currently from the Vlei, we donate it to our local communities as part of food diet.
Bit of background.
The fish is a relief. It's difficult during the lockdown for the children to get food, and money is scarce. So what can we do? But we are thankful for the fish.
We did a lot of study and homework before we actually got to the point of where we are today. The fish itself, yes, needless to say, it's all good, very good for human consumption. The locals actually love it.
Now, let's switch gears to our conversation of the day, home-based care. This has become a new reality for many, even as those numbers of infections in as far as COVID-19 is concerned continue to rise, and so that we do not actually overstretch our healthcare services or infrastructure. This was it was actually advised and it was given a go-ahead by the government. So how are we faring, and how best can we make this a norm going forward? Because it has been a reality the world over. Well, to help us have that conversation, Dr. Ubrin Mora, who is an internist and a healthcare advocate, in studio with us. Stella Kimani, who is a clinical nutritionist, and she's also the Deputy Secretary General at the Nutritionists Association of Kenya. And we are also joined by Ruth Were, who is the CEO at the Nairobi Hospice, and we are also joined by Tatiana Karanja, who is a photographer by profession and a COVID-19 survivor who we are celebrating this morning. We were to be joined by Ian Wafula, who is battling COVID-19 at the moment, but he's not too well this morning, but he sends his regards and keeps preaching the message of destigmatizing those who are living with this condition, something we'll also be touching on. But let's get on to the conversation. And Dr. Mora, when you think about home-based care, most people think about staying at home, just it's like a flu, riding out the flu. Exactly what is home-based care to you as a professional?
Really, it's important for people to understand what really the concept of home-based care is, especially in the context of COVID, where you're having someone who's tested positive for COVID and has the correct environment, home environment, to be able to self-isolate at home and quarantine themselves at home, and still be able to access a healthcare provider, be able to talk to someone, and they have a caregiver at home who's taking care of them. So it's essentially sort of, Gladys, you're moving the hospital to our home. So it's not just staying at home and doing the normal stuff. It's just staying at home and being and observing all the measures that need to be observed to make sure you don't transmit it to someone else in the confinement or in the comfort of your home while there's someone who's taking care of you.
And the government was very clear about certain isolation and care protocols that need to be in place in a home setting to enable home-based care to be successful. Which are these?
So first, they have to assess and see that you have the right home environment. And let's be honest again, before I even mention this, is that 60% of Kenyans can't be able to really provide a home-based care for patients with COVID, because 60% of Kenyans live below the poverty line. They make less than $1 a day, so they can't really manage. So you have to have the right home environment. In this case, there are factors about the patient first. The patient has to be not having any comorbidities. They are asymptomatic, or they just have mild disease for them to be allowed to be nursed at home. And the other thing is they obviously have to test positive for COVID. And then they need to have that home that then they can be able to have that environment. And this environment will entail that they have their own room, they have space. And you know, Gladys, how many Kenyans have room and the luxury of saying that they can be confined in a room within the home setup. Very few Kenyans. So having that home environment where you have your own home, you have your own room, you have your own toilet and bathroom. You have, and the room is well ventilated. So there's a healthcare worker or community health volunteer will come and assess and see that you actually can be able to stay in that confinement, and it's in the right environment, and you have someone, there's a caregiver. And again, you have to make sure in that environment, children below 2 years or people above 65 are not in the same place with that person. So all those factors, how many of us can feel them, really?
And that is a conversation we'll be touching on even as we continue with this broadcast. Let me bring in Ruth Were. You have been in the space of home-based care at the Nairobi Hospice, and definitely this goes beyond just COVID to other conditions. Which are these other conditions that you cater for?
Palliative care services, and most of our patients, a significant number of patients are cancer patients, but others now have HIV and AIDS and other non-communicable diseases. So we go out there to their homes when they are not able to come to our facility to visit them and offer the care that they need. So it's been ongoing for a while, and it's one of our key services that we give here at Nairobi Hospice. Now, obviously, with COVID now, it has complicated things a little bit because managing these patients now becomes a little bit challenging.
Now, when you say when the patients cannot come to you, at this point, what do you mean? Is it because they cannot afford your services at the hospital, or they are so weak or not doing well that they cannot come to you?
When we go to their home, it means they cannot reach our facility for the care because they are too weak or too sick just to come out of their home. So we don't encourage people to move the patient too much. So it's us now to go to the patient, because you also need to reach out to the patient other than the patient coming to you.
Okay, and you offer caregiver services, and at this point, very crucial, even as Dr. Mora mentioned. So what are these services you offer at home?
When we go to visit the home, we do an assessment of the patient based on their medical condition, because they have been referred to us. Then we come up with the care that is required for the patient. Then we also now look at the home environment. How is the environment in the house? Who is with the patient? Then from there now you give the medication that is required based on the need. Then if there are caregivers within the home, you educate them about the patient, what they need to do with the patient, because most of the time you find when you have a sick person in the house, people fear and they tend to take off and leave the patient alone. So we try to counsel them to understand the patient's condition. Then we help them to do the right things for the patient. And with time, you find that with that kind of a knowledge and education, they get to understand now what they need to do better. And actually, both the patient and the caregivers within the home environment now become very comfortable, and they manage the patient very well.
Okay, so we are talking about home-based care because it's become a reality because of what we are facing as a country and the global scene. Let's bring in Tatiana. Tatiana, you have walked in these shoes. You were tested COVID positive. How long ago?
I think it's been around almost a month now, if I'm not correct. I mean, the days have just kind of merged together, but it's been almost a month.
And what were the symptoms that made you get tested?
Actually, it was a fluke that I got tested, to be honest with you, because my sister actually was feeling sick for about a week and a half, and she got tested. So the day that she was getting tested, our family decided, why don't we all get tested, you know, just as a precaution. Both my sister and I, she was living with my mom, I was staying at my dad's house. You know, we were all with people who, you know, potentially could get really affected by this virus. So we all decided, why not just get tested, just as a precaution. And funny enough, I was positive. And the week before, I did have sort of a headache and fluish symptoms. I wasn't really fluey, but I did feel a bit of pressure, and I really associated that to just being exhausted with my kids. You know, I was doing a lot. I was trying to work. I was with my kids. So it was just like, oh, I'm just really tired. I'm exhausted. My body's, you know, trying to tell me that I need to rest. So it was really just a fluke that we did the test.
Okay, I remember watching the video you put out after you found out you were positive and you were besides yourself with emotion. Tell us, what exactly was it that you were going through when you heard that you were positive?
Well, at the beginning, when I first heard, my kids had not done the test yet. So at that time, I felt really, really, really scared, really anxious. I was really terrified that I could infect them, because I know that generally they're carriers, but you still see those stories of babies, that 1% of kids that are getting that inflammatory disease and all of that. So I was so scared, and I had to be strong because I had to isolate at that moment in time. It was just me who was positive. So I had to isolate with my kids, away from my dad, away from everyone else who was in the house. And I felt really lonely and scared. So as soon as I got their test results done and found out they were negative, of course I was happy about that, but I was really scared to have to leave my kids for 2 weeks, which is when I made that video. And the thing is, I've never been away from my kids for more than one night. So having to leave them for 2 whole weeks, not knowing if they'll be okay, not knowing if anyone will detect whether or not they're sick, whether or not they have a fever. You know, I felt like I was the only one who would see the signs coming if in case they did get sick. So I was beyond terrified. And I think that was the lowest point during this whole corona for me.
And you went into isolation with your husband. Had he tested positive?
So he was positive as well. It was me and him that was positive. So we went and isolated together alone.
Okay. Now, clearly in her situation, thankfully, she had a support system to, you know, want to take the kids and, of course, to isolate with her husband. And I think the psychosocial bit has come out as being very important in this process. Speak on the same.
So having a support system, and that's what I'm telling you, it's a very good concept that can actually really ease the burden on the healthcare system, but it's for a few Kenyans that can really meet it. Because you're seeing Tatiana having to have a social support system, just like me. If I was to be isolated, then I need someone to take care of my kids. So if that social support is not available, even you need a caregiver, you need a support system to take care of the responsibilities you'd otherwise have to do. You have people who have to go and shop for you and bring the food at home. So social support is so paramount in the whole concept of home-based care in COVID patients. So if that lacks, then it won't work, because then you can't leave the house. You have someone bringing you food. You have someone who's supposed to be checking up on you. You have someone who's taking your temperature, and they're donning the right protective gear as they take care of you. And you have the supply of the protective requirements that are required. So it's a very beautiful concept that is available just for a few people, really. Because if you went to Kibra, or you went to Mudhura, Kwanjenga, or if you went to a village back in Githunguri, or you went to somewhere at the coast, how many people can actually be able to take the temperature? You need someone to be trained. So even the community health volunteers who are supporting this system, they also need to be trained, and they also need to be checking up on you. You have to be calling up the hotline if you have any symptoms, and if anything changes, because remember, this is just a spectrum of disease. So if you move from mild to moderate symptoms, then you have to check into a facility. So I think what I hear the government was doing is that for setups where this cannot be met, then they're setting aside some quarantine settings that will provide a sort of home-based care. So, and that would work, yes, because then now you have a general sort of a more social support where they maybe get the psychologist, remember?
Yeah.
If you don't have that support system, you're a mother, you're a father, it's going to get to you, you know? Yeah, and you really need a good social support system.
Okay, and Ruth, this is very critical, especially as you deal with cancer patients and other patients who need palliative care. What is your experience?
Well, as she said, if you don't have a very good social support system for the patient at home, it becomes very challenging for that particular individual. But otherwise, it's a very good concept. It's something we advocate for as Nairobi Hospice, because the patient is best managed in an environment that is very familiar, and it becomes very comfortable for that individual. However, the support around that individual is critical for them to feel wanted and comfortable. So the social support has to be very, very good for the patient. So sometimes you would go to a home, you find that is lacking. Maybe it's the neighbors who are assisting, but you see the neighbors can only come and go at a specific time. They have their own things to do. So if you don't have a support, some families actually abandon the patient and go away. So the church has to come in, a neighbor, a friend. So some of the patients basically have been managed through friends, the church, and things like that. But we try to advocate for patients having their own relatives around them. And then once we educate them what to do, you counsel them about the patient's illness. They tend to pick up themselves and they move on very well with life.
So I'm curious to know, in case somebody does not have any support system and it's just them alone, what do you do with such a case?
Generally, the African setup, you are never alone. That's what we've come to realize. You find the next door neighbor, they'll always pop in. Some women groups will organize how to take turns to look after this particular person. There's always somebody who will come up and assist this particular individual. So we try just to ask the patient who is close to you, who are their friends, so that you bring them in and involve them in the care of that particular individual. Because you can't leave them alone. Otherwise, other than that, they would need to be in a health facility.
Okay, now something else is very critical when you talk about home-based care is your nutrition, because you cannot get better if you're not feeding your body. And this is where Stella Kimani comes in handy. How critical is nutrition even as somebody is trying to build up the immune system?
Nutrition is extremely important in determining how the immune system is going to respond to the disease itself, and also how fast the person is going to recuperate from disease. So it's important, just as it was mentioned, that psychosocial support is important for COVID patients. The psychosocial support extends to nutrition as well, because if you're sick, you need someone to cook for you. You need to have the kind of financial capability that is required to help you get foods that will help support your immune system. Because the typical diet, Kenyan diet, especially if it's mostly carbohydrate based, might not be the best in terms of supporting immune function, because you need a variety of nutrients to be able to help the immune system to work as it should, and also to deal with some of the symptoms. Especially for COVID, we have symptoms like fever, we have symptoms like it comes with inflammation as well, and nutrition plays a very important role in all those. So, and also fever comes with increased calories. So it's important to first of all understand which nutrients do you need for management of COVID patients, which ones will help to alleviate the symptoms, and which ones will help to support the immune system to work as it's supposed to.
And Stella, you'll be giving us more details about the same even as we continue with this conversation. As I mentioned earlier, Ian Wafula, who was to be your guest today, called in to apologize in the morning, saying he woke up with a fever and he's actually not feeling well. He, however, had posted this on his Instagram saying if you can't leave the house, you might as well cycle in it. Day 6 of 14 since I got tested, not felt any symptoms since. That was his state until this morning, where he notified us that he woke up with a fever or feverish. He also added, if you are lucky enough to be asymptomatic, your only battle is actually the mind. Had like 2 panic attacks in 2 nights after I got my results. Thought the mild symptoms were worsening, but it was just in my head. Been good since, and with so much support from several people and endless calls and checkups, it helps. I've also been so caught up with the Heal the web, which is why when I finally got to bed, reality hits. Like most patients on home-based care, I got a call from the Ministry of Health checking up and advising that a mixture of hot water, lemon and ginger actually helps, and lots of fruits, eating all meals and keeping warm while avoiding sugary stuff, which is what I've been on, plus the vitamin D and vitamin C supplements. I should be out soon. Yes, we believe you will beat this, Ian. Thank you so much for agreeing to speak to us, and we wish you good health and a quick recovery. We take a short break at this point. When we come back, more on home-based care.
You need to watch your weight, and that reduce fat in your meals, and most importantly, check your weight.
You're asking me to calm down while your ex is literally kicking me out of my own house?
Welcome to this year's Slimming is Possible competition. The first task is to complete a very simple task of running 2-kilometer race.
What is going on here?
Either she leaves or I leave. You choose.
Did you know there's a laundry bar soap that can help save you time, water and money? You save by not having to use multiple products. And you only rinse once. For a laundry soap that can help save you time, water and money, try Whitewash Extra. Brand power, helping you buy better.
Breastfeeding is not only a foundation for a child's future, health and well-being, but also a critical element of worldwide development efforts to create a healthier, prosperous and sustainable planet. However, the COVID-19 pandemic and the resultant response actions by government have had negative effects on nursing mothers. As a result, their access to health facilities, inadequate human resource for health, leading to tasks shifting and or burnout have directly hampered breastfeeding education and counseling services. On Thursday, 6th August 2020, the Nation Media Group will hold a live virtual Nation Leadership Forum from 7:30 p.m. on NTV. With the help of a panel of experts, it shall delve into this year's theme of the World's Breastfeeding Week, Support Breastfeeding for a Healthier Planet, and delve into how stakeholders aim to garner support for the practice of exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months of life. Nation Leadership Forum. Engaging society, impacting the nation.
Lisa, my darling, you know that I will never forget you. But life goes on. I think the time has come to give myself another chance to be happy.
My father spent 2 years locked away feeling depressed. You show up and everything changed. Why's that, Lashana? What are you getting out of all of this?
One thing's for sure, you need to find a way to fix this.
All right, you know what? You're not giving me orders. I know what to do and how to do it.
We know that's not the case.
Better leave me alone and let me do things my way.
Along Came Love, in association with Blue Band Peanut Butter.
Finding the
truth in these uncertain times has become certain. Possibilities for business even more convenient with the Nation e-paper. To enjoy this and more, simply dial star 550 star 1 hash for Daily Nation and star 550 star 5 hash for Business Daily on your mobile phone and get 50% discount on the e-paper. Yes, for just 20 shillings each, the truth will find you and more possibilities right where you are. Dial star 550 star 1 hash for Daily Nation and star 550 star 5 hash for Business Daily today. Terms and conditions apply.
Taught us, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that we should keep cleanliness. Actually, he said that cleanliness is what is best for a Muslim. And from him, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, hand washing, which is part of cleanliness, hand washing, that we wash our hands, we wash our faces, we wash every time with soap. This is part of what the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam taught us.
When we moved from analog to digital, we took the opportunity to share our talanta. And the rise of local radio represented our voices in Taani. New ICT and educational platforms are going to make sure that no one is left behind.
Communications Authority of Kenya, opening your world.
Thank you for staying with Your World. My name is Gladys Gachanja. Today we focus on home-based care now that it's become a reality even as we battle COVID-19 and those number of infections continue to rise amongst us. And those that have actually been asked to do so at home is those who are symptomatic, do not have underlying conditions, as Dr. Morao was mentioning. And you need to have a support system that ensures that you go through this in a healthy way and also do not become contagious to other people. But even before I get to Tatiana to understand her journey, you were very quick to say that we need to clarify for those who are alone and are battling COVID-19, they do not have the luxury of the neighbor coming to check on them.
No, they don't. So in the checklist, before you can actually qualify for home-based care, you have to have a support system, you have to have the right infrastructure in your house, and you have to have the right support system, as we said earlier. You have your relative or the person who lives with you in the house, and the environment in the house, as we mentioned. So there's a checklist that has to be fulfilled before you can actually qualify for home-based care. Otherwise, there is no option of calling the neighbor or a friend checking in once in a while. You have to go to a hospital or a health-based facility for you to get the care. So it's actually a very clear guideline. There's a very clear guideline and a very clear criteria that has to be fulfilled before you can be allowed to have home-based care. Because again, remember, we don't want people just walking in and walking out just to check up on you. Because again, the person who's taking care of you has to be the same person throughout. And so that has to be fulfilled before then you can be allowed to be at home.
Okay. Yeah. Now, Tatiana, after you went into isolation, first of all, what informed where you would isolate, considering that each of you was living with your family members?
Sorry, could you repeat that again?
When you went into isolation, what advised where you would isolate, considering that you were living with different family members?
So when I first found out, of course, now I was living with my dad. We were lucky enough to have quite a large house and compound that we had to isolate on one section of the house. And the next step from there was finding out whether my kids were positive or not, and the other households, so that we could arrange ourselves in a manner that, we're not infecting each other. So as soon as we knew what everyone's status was, we were able to make a plan of action. And that was, my kids went to my sister to stay for the 2 weeks. And myself and Wayne went to Wayne's parents' apartment, and they weren't there. So we were able to isolate alone.
And when you were going through the self-isolation, how are you taking care of yourselves? Like, who is catering for you? Of course, you had company, but in terms of who brings you food, who checks up on you, how is that working?
So again, luckily enough, as you've mentioned, support from your family and friends is so important during this period of time. And I was really grateful enough I was really lucky enough to have a really supportful family and friend. They were always checking up on me, always calling us, seeing how we're doing. In terms of us taking care of ourselves, luckily Wayne and I didn't have such a bad case where we weren't able to take care of ourselves. So we were able to cook, clean, whatever it was that we needed to do, we were able to do. And on top of that, in terms of ordering food and things like that, we would order, we would instruct the people who were delivering to leave it in front of the door, walk away. Once they had left, we would open the door, pick our delivery, and close the door again. So that's how we were getting food in and out of the house.
Okay, there has been suggestion that even laundry and the utensils you use should be taken care of separately from those that are negative. How are you handling that bit of it? Did you do it yourself?
So again, thankfully, we were able to isolate on our own. So it was just me and Wayne. So we were able to wash up after ourselves. And then, for example, at my mom's house, I know what they did was they had paper cups and paper plates. So whenever you use something, you just throw it away.
Okay, understandably so. Let me bring in Ruth on this one. For those that are actually going through home-based care because they have chronic illnesses, how does that look like for them, especially when it comes to nutrition? Because not everyone is able to cater for themselves. Ruth, can you hear us?
Oh, it's me.
Yes.
Oh, what did you say? Yeah.
I was asking for those for those that are at home and who are going through home-based care due to chronic illnesses, how do they cater for their nutrition, considering that this is really critical for their well-being?
Yeah, nutrition is important, especially when you have these chronic illnesses and terminal illnesses, because it's supposed to give you the energy that you need because you're on very strong medications. So we basically advise the patients to eat normally what they can. I know some people cannot afford food, but sometimes you get well-wishers who assist these people to bring in food, rations. But we advise them to eat normally, balanced, not to think about those other high-end foods, just the normal foods that you have in the market. They can just buy and eat the normal foods that they normally eat, the ujis, the teas, the porridge, the ndumas, the vegetables, the beans, everything. And then just to maintain proper hydration, it's very critical as well, and hygiene. We advocate a lot for proper hygiene, bathing at least once a day if they are able, but just to eat normally, not to start thinking about the high-end things that they hear out there. Just eat the normal foods that are available in your house, because nutrition is critical. It gives you the energy based on the medication you are taking, because the medications themselves can make you very weak and dehydrated. So it's important that you eat well, eat what you have, and then maintain proper hydration and just drink enough and stay clean and maintain proper hygiene within your environment.
And speaking about hygiene, we have been told it's one of the first-line defenses against contracting COVID-19. Even as you walk with those that you are catering for that need palliative care, are you sensitizing them to how crucial this is, considering that they are more susceptible to contracting the virus?
Yeah, from the time this issue came into our country, that is the first thing we started discussing with our patients, because these are a vulnerable group of patients.
Yeah.
Any small problem, they can contract an illness very fast. So we educated them, we put measures in place where we advise them, if you need any help, just call us and we'll guide you. So most of them have managed to maintain what have been advised. And so far, we've not had a situation where any of our patients has contracted COVID. Most of them are they are doing very well actually. And we are able to communicate with them on phone. Those who are able to come here, come, and we just review and we continue with the treatment process.
Okay, and I think at this point it's crucial we hear from Stella. You talked about some foods that are really critical for those that are isolating at home. They have tested COVID-19 positive and they're trying to rebuild the immune system. Which foods are these?
Yeah, so first of all, I need to clarify that for people with comorbid conditions, in addition to COVID-19, the nutrition and diet that they're going to need will be determined by the additional medical condition that they have. So, for instance, a person who has tested positive for COVID-19 and additionally has diabetes, you have to take into account the nutrition that is required in the management of diabetes, which is going to include ensuring that the blood sugars are kept stable so that you don't end up in a position where the person is getting complications from the comorbid condition and not the COVID itself. So that is very different, and I would advise that any person who is not able to effectively provide the nutrition they need for COVID management and they have a comorbid condition, they must not qualify for home-based care because that is the easiest recipe for them to start getting medical complications. So back to your question on the nutrition that is necessary for COVID. First of all, we have the key symptoms for COVID, and one of them is fever. Fever increases the requirement for the total calories that the person needs because it calls for more energy. And that means that the person requires more carbohydrate intake and more intake of what we call macronutrients, and that is carbohydrate, protein, and fats, the healthy fats. So for carbohydrate, what would be affordable and very healthy is stuff like sweet potatoes, ugali, just make sure it's the portion meal one, that is not the very refined one. Stuff like sweet potatoes, as I said, pumpkins, arrowroots, ondoma, rice, those are good sources of carbohydrate. For protein, it can be either animal-based or plant-based. So one of the cheapest sources of protein that most people can afford is eggs. So you can take at least 2 eggs every day, and eggs, in addition to giving you protein, will also give you some key nutrients that are important for immune system, like zinc. It will give you vitamin D as well, in addition to the amino acids. So that is very important also to consider, especially for people who are on a budget, because we must understand that not everybody with COVID will be able to afford an elaborate meal, as Ruth mentioned. So I would also advise that community health volunteers be trained on nutrition and how to do an assessment for COVID patients at household level to make sure that they are able to afford adequate nutrition. And if they are not, please let them, be not under home-based care, because they would then end up getting complications from malnutrition and not the COVID itself. So some of the important nutrients you would need with COVID is something like zinc. And you can get zinc from dairy products like milk and milk products, eggs, meat. Just make sure that your meat is the lean meat, not the fatty, the fatty meat, because fat, especially from animal products, increases inflammation. And inflammation is already something that is a problem with COVID. So you also need to take foods that are not making the symptoms that you have worse. So for zinc, stuff like eggs, as I mentioned, would be very important. And for inflammation, you would also need omega-3. Omega-3 are fatty acids that you can also get from fish oil. So for people who are able to afford fish oil, please incorporate fish oil, at least 1,000 milligrams every day. Get a prescription if necessary. And also, if you're not able to afford the fish oil, there are some types of seeds that are very good sources of omega-3, and that is a seed like chia seeds or pumpkin seeds. Mm-hmm. Pumpkins are very common in Kenya. You can be able to get that from a normal market. Mm-hmm. All you need to do is to remove the seeds from the pumpkin, clean them, and then roast them like you would peanuts. Uh-huh. Yeah? Okay. Yes. So don't throw them away. And I know a lot of Kenyans do throw that away when they are cooking their pumpkins. Please don't do that. Mm-hmm. And the same as the squash seeds. Squash looks like pumpkin, but it's a bit slimmer. Okay. Yeah. And then sim as well. Sim, I think, is something we can easily get even on the streets. Mm-hmm. Just make sure it's not high in sugar. I know some people prepare it with sugar. So sugar actually increases inflammation. As I mentioned, inflammation is something you want to control in COVID patients, yeah?
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, you talked about the good fats. Maybe you can quickly let us know what those are?
Yes. So when you're talking about fats, we have two subdivisions. So we have saturated fats and we have unsaturated fats. So the fats you want to concentrate on is the unsaturated ones. The saturated ones come from animal products, and that's why we are advising, like, don't eat fatty meat, especially if maybe something like heart disease is a comorbid condition to COVID, yeah? Okay. Now, the good fats you can get from foods like nuts, all types of nuts. Peanuts are very easy to access, especially in Kenya. Avocado, very good source of what we are calling the good monounsaturated fatty acids. And if possible, I would request the government and the manufacturers to try and maybe even lower the cost of something like nuts. Because in addition to the good fats, the nuts like peanuts will give you something like zinc as well. Yeah, it will also give you copper, which is very crucial for immune function. Okay. So there are some key foods that I would really request the government to also consider, making sure that in the market and also supermarket, we have a basic food basket that can be affordable to the common mwananchi, so that we are dealing more with the preventive and promotive healthcare. And that way we are minimizing the number of people getting admitted. And you know, we know with the numbers going high, our medical facilities are really going to get an influx of patients. So in order for us to prevent that kind of a situation, let us support the innate immune system in the person to fight for itself.
Okay, now we're talking about nutrition and how crucial it is. Just a quick one from Tatiana. Is this something that you took up?
So I didn't do anything special because I feel like I've been really working on my health since the beginning of last year, which is also why I feel like I have a really good immune system at the moment, because I've been taking my health quite seriously. I work out regularly. I eat well. I mean, whole balanced meals, lots of greens, lots of fiber, lots of fats, everything that, you know, nutritionist has just talked about. So I generally have that in my diet. I also do take supplements like zinc, calcium, and magnesium supplements, which is also to help me with like recovery as well as just. So I feel like I am really balanced generally. So during this period of time, I didn't do anything special, but I did try and, you know, maybe eat a few more berries than I would have, drink a bit more water and the likes.
Okay. And Dr. Mora, definitely this season has brought out the importance of always keeping your immune system on a high. How crucial is this even as you see patients on a daily?
I'll tell you, let me clarify something, Gladys, that in the clinical context, talking about being very specific about eat this nut, eat this one, it doesn't work. So we in the clinical startup, I'll tell you, we are quite I'll call it in a very quote-unquote realistic, because you're facing a patient who, they'll tell you that, where am I getting pumpkin seeds from, you know? Where am I getting this particular kind of fat you're talking about? So I think as a blanket on how we try to really like have our patients knowing, because today if you eat, let's say, you eat something with omega, today you'll eat it, tomorrow you'll eat an orange, the next day you'll eat something else. The body takes what it needs. So even if you give it so much zinc, it won't take it if it doesn't need it. If it has enough, it won't take more. So I think the bottom line is, one, we live with a scientific evidence about what really works for patients who have COVID. And in this case, we have seen that we've even put it sort of a protocol where they have to take some zinc supplement, part of if they have mild disease and they're at home. So we ensure that we tell them they have some zinc and they have some vitamin C. And the rest we tell them have a balanced diet. Get me? So in this case then, as the nutritionist very well pointed out, that you have your starch, you have your protein, you have some fruit, and you have your vegetables on one side. So basically how I make it very simple for patients is, half of your plate is vegetables, a quarter of it is your protein, an eighth of it is your starch, and an eighth composes your fruit or something. But remember, she also highlighted there's some things, like if you have fever, your caloric intake is higher, so you have to increase your caloric intake, which comes from your starch. If you have something else, if you have a deficiency, let's say vitamin D or something, then that also has to be supplemented if you have a deficiency. But she also highlighted about how we need to ensure that patients who have comorbidities are taken care of. So let's say diabetics. One important fact is, if you have diabetes, you will not be managed at home.
Even if you have it under control?
You won't.
Okay.
That is one of the criteria I was saying. Before you're chosen to be managed at home, there's a criteria you have to fulfill, for you to be managed at home. And one of them is that you have no comorbidities. You have no diabetes, you have no heart disease, you have no cancer, you have no HIV. Because we know these conditions and because the immunity is dysregulated, things can go haywire and we won't have enough time. So you have to be managed in a hospital setup. And when you're in a hospital setup, then your diabetes will be taken care of. Your heart disease will be taken care of. But if you don't have any of those things and you're at home and you have no comorbidities, then you can be followed up from there. So all you do is you check in about your fever or if your symptoms get worse. We even give you some exercises about breathing exercises, which is like a chest physiotherapy, which you do to improve on your breathing. And if anything changes, then you come and you check in with your healthcare workers and the contacts that have been given, the toll-free numbers. Then you check in and you can be transferred from the tire of just being managed as home-based care to moving into a facility. So that has to be very clear, where you're not being a diabetic who is at home having home-based care. It won't happen, and that is not recommended, because we know the infection itself, not nutrition, can throw the sugars and the diabetic control to the rocks. Okay. So you have to be in a healthier setup. So is heart disease, because the heart really goes into extra work when you have an infection. So it will make the symptoms worse, and that is what informs all these decisions. So let's all remember, and I urge all Kenyans to know that for home-based care, 1, you can't have comorbidities. 2, you can't be above 65 years of age. 3, you have to have the right setup and you have to have tested positive for COVID for you to actually say, okay, fine, so I'm having this care at home. And your nutrition will be managed depending on what you really like, your caloric intake and requirements. You find people who are obese, who we encourage to lose weight when they have the infection, because we know obesity is a risk factor for bad outcomes. And then we're also having other patients who maybe they live in a setup where they can't access some foods. So you have to tailor-make the diet to fit what is available and still be able to supply both the micro and the macronutrients.
Okay, and even as you talk about some of those requirements, somebody is asking, how about those who have allergies, severe allergies and asthma? Is this something that is considered a comorbidity?
Yes, asthma is considered a comorbidity because that's a chronic lung disease. Yeah. That is considered a comorbidity and they can be managed at home. Those ones, they have to be in a healthcare setup because inflammation of the lung triggers an acute exacerbation, an acute attack of asthma, and that can really be fatal if it's not handled as fast as it should be, which is in our healthcare setup.
And for the record, comorbidities is the same as underlying conditions or other conditions that make you susceptible to COVID-19, like heart disease,
cancer, HIV, diabetes, and other immune conditions like autoimmune conditions like lupus. and other connective tissue diseases. So there is an array of all those things. And again, those determine how are you managed and which medication need to change. Because remember, there's also drug-to-drug interactions. And even in diabetics, when they get COVID, there's some drugs that have to be withdrawn, and they have to be, let's say, on insulin if they're on other things. So all these things can not happen in the context of a home-based care. And that's where they have to be in a hospital and in a healthcare facility, where all those have to be mentioned. I'd like to highlight something else, that when these patients are being managed at home, when they have no comorbidities or any underlying condition, they cannot take alcohol and they can't smoke. They have to stop those. I think we kind of don't want to talk about them, but they have to, because as the nutritionist clearly pointed out, that there's inflammation taking place. We don't want anything that propagates inflammation, or anything that suppresses the immunity, or anything that hinders some organ from functioning, because then you have a high, what we call it's a high catabolic state, meaning there's a lot of breakdown of energy, and then we need you to be at your best. And we need your body as calm, I'll put it in quotes, as calm as possible, so they can be able to concentrate on fighting the virus, because essentially, really, there's no treatment we are giving you.
Okay. And before I take a break, a quick one. Tatiana, your children at some point tested positive, right?
Yeah.
Okay, how long after?
So they tested positive a week after me.
Sorry, I missed that. How long after you tested positive did they test positive?
They tested positive a week after me. I mean, they were retested a week after, and they were found to be positive.
Okay, when we come back from the break, I'd like to understand your experience now knowing that your children are positive and how you catered for them at home. But before we take that break, we had asked you earlier, have you tested positive for COVID-19 and did you actually qualify for home-based care? What is your experience? And are you also a caregiver? Talk to us. Job Njagi says, I think home-based care is working because in the hospitals there is reinfection due to the lack of preparation by county governments. Interesting insights. Dr. Mora will be telling us more about that. Manua Kilgore says, how do people treat corona at home? Because I fear to be tested and going for quarantine. That's why we're talking about it. It actually is possible. And of course, understanding the criteria. Geoffrey Mwai says, I left my life, or rather my wife and infant, in secret after testing positive. Oh my word. This is where stigma plays a part, and we'll talk about that right after this break. Stay with us.
Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam taught us about plague. He told us that if it's happening in a place, don't go. And if you are in a place that is happening, don't come out. Prophet was preparing us for quarantine, and he was also telling us to take precaution, that we should not be agents or carriers of the virus. It should not be us who are going to carry the virus, take it to our congregations. For this reason, our congregations, we've decided that since faith is in the heart and everybody knows where his faith is, we have taken this time to stay at home, pray at home, do our prayers.
Ndovu flowers are fortified with vitamins and minerals to provide wholesome goodness for the whole family. Ndovu all-purpose flour makes the most delicious chapatis, mandazis and all other pastries. Ndovu is readily available at your nearest shop. Ndovu Tosha. Breastfeeding is not only a foundation for a child's future, health and well-being, but also a critical element of worldwide development efforts to create a healthier, prosperous and sustainable planet. However, the COVID-19 pandemic and the resultant response actions by government have had negative effects on nursing mothers. As a result, their access to health facilities, inadequate human resource for health, leading to tasks shifting and/or burnout have directly hampered breastfeeding education and counseling services. On Thursday, 6th August 2020, the Nation Media Group will hold a live virtual Nation Leadership Forum from 7:30 p.m. on NTV. With the help of a panel of experts, it shall delve into this year's theme of the World's Breastfeeding Week, Support Breastfeeding for a Healthier Planet, and delve into how stakeholders aim to garner support for the practice of exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months of life.
Nation Leadership Forum. Engaging society, impacting the nation.
When we moved from analog to digital, we took the opportunity to share our talanta. And the rise of local radio represented our voices mtaani. New ICT and educational platforms are going to make sure that no one is left behind.
Communications Authority of Kenya. Opening your world.
It is your world. My name is Gladys Gachanja, even as we understand more about home-based care on this episode. And even as we do so, more than 70 people die each month in the trek to cross Africa and reach Europe, culminating in thousands of deaths in recent years. This is according to the UN. Now, meanwhile, Mali's political crisis, drags on, and a Tunisian man has found an ancient secret about making purple dye.
Thousands of migrants have died whilst crossing Africa, according to a UN report that estimates over 70 people perish each month on the continent's routes. This week in Geneva, representatives from the UN Refugee Agency and the International Organization for Migration said migrants face tremendous challenges and unspeakable brutality while trying to make it to Europe and a better life. Nearly a third of those who die along these overland routes tried to cross the Sahara Desert. Others died in the south of war-ravaged Libya, while another deadly route crosses conflict-ridden Central African Republic and Mali. Those who survive are often left severely traumatized.
In 47% of the case, the victims reported the perpetrators of violence are law enforcement authorities, whereas in the past we believed that it was mainly smugglers and traffickers. Yet, yes, they are key perpetrators of violence, but the primary perpetrators of violence are people who are supposed to protect.
Mali's opposition protest movement, nicknamed the M5 RFP Alliance, has repeated its demand for President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta to resign as the country's political crisis drags on.
À partir de cet instant, nous avons remis les compteurs à zéro.
From this moment, we reset the counters to zero. Resign, Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta and your regime. This counter will continue to run, and we said that the truce that was announced by the M5 RFP will end in a few days.
Annoncé par le M5 RFP.
A summit of 5 regional presidents in Bamako failed to solve the deadlock. The government has agreed to sharing power with the protesters following the mediator's recommendations, but certain government-allied MPs refuse to step down.
Ce n'est pas dans son rôle.
It's not their place to ask for that.
Overall, the 30 members of parliament who make up this group have agreed not to resign.
Tanzanian opposition heavyweight Tundu Lissu, who was shot 16 times in a 2017 assassination attack, returned from exile this week to challenge President John Magufuli in elections later this year. He'd been living in Belgium and underwent more than 20 medical operations. Nobody has been convicted with the assassination attempt. Ahead of the polls, the United States last month accused the country of seeking to stifle democratic norms with a string of arrests of opposition figures and the closure of a newspaper. During an interview with AFP before returning from Europe, Lissu said he has what it takes to get rid of President Magufuli, but that the election is fraught with challenges.
Whether we are going to get to have free and fair elections, that is not the question. We don't expect that. The issue is, are we going to be alive? Are we going to have our lives by the end of the electoral process? Because this government is so violent, has acted with so much violence, that is the biggest fear. Will we have elections?
A stadium has been turned into a field hospital in the Kenyan town of Machakos, 60 kilometres from the capital Nairobi, where people with mild symptoms of COVID-19 can isolate. Kenya is ramping up health facilities to deal with growing numbers of coronavirus infections. Here at the stadium, patients have much greater space and are able to move around more than they otherwise would in a hospital.
We anticipate the capacity of the stadium will be over 400 patients. We are getting in more beds and more materials in preparation. And also the new ward, the other ward, is we are intending to open today. We are anticipating the numbers of the patients as the numbers continue to surge. So I'll say we have the capacity. We have been supported by the government.
In the intensive care unit at the county hospital down the road, doctors give special care to patients in more serious conditions. Kenya has around 20,000 confirmed cases of the virus so far. And finally, a Tunisian man has pieced together a local secret linked to ancient emperors. How to make a prized purple dye using the guts of a sea snail. Having begun the journey in 2007, after years of trial and error, as well as getting over the foul stench, Mohamed Gassanuira uses a hammer and small stone mortar to carefully break open the spiny murex shells.
Writings on the subject. It's very vague. So we had to rediscover the process from scratch. I stumbled upon a small dead murex on a beach by chance. I discovered the color. I had a flashback of a history class that I had taken 12 years before I found the murex shell.
A symbol of power and prestige, the celebrated purple colour was traditionally used for royal and imperial robes.
Fascinating. And we're back on that conversation to do with home-based care. And Tatiana, you said your two children tested positive a week after you tested positive. And at that point, of course, you all had to come together, right?
Yeah, so it was a great moment because I was able to get back to my kids. But at the same time, I mean, I was really, really, really scared. The whole thing of, you see all this stuff online about inflammatory disease, and that really scared me. I can't swear, but that's how scared I was. I was really scared. But it was really great that I was able to be with them and monitor them daily. And I also had my doctor on call for anything. So if there were any symptoms that, came up, I'd be able to talk to him about it. And I was basically testing them every morning and every afternoon. Testing them, I mean, their temperature and their oxygen levels, and just monitoring them daily.
So when you talk about symptoms, did they have any?
They had none. Actually, the thing, I think Ian put it really nicely in his message when he said, the main battle is mental, because anything that comes up, you're already there worrying that this is COVID. So the first day we got back, Wayne and I spoilt them with lots of food and sweets. And as a result, the next day, Olive had a bit of diarrhea. So now that happened, and I'm there panicking, thinking it's COVID, but really it's also just a day-to-day, we really we spoiled her with a lot of things, so her tummy wasn't used to it. So anything that came up, I was really worried that it could have been COVID, but my doctor always reassured me, just everything is fine, keep monitoring. And so no symptoms came up, they were really fine.
Okay, and Dr. Mora, I'm curious to understand. First of all, the kids tested positive a week after the parents did. Why and how? What would inform that?
What would inform that was when they contracted the virus. Because, it's not guaranteed that if we are together right now, Gladys, that you'll get the virus today. Maybe it's tomorrow when we hang out again. So if they got the virus, let's say 2 days prior, because remember we talked about a window period when the symptoms start to manifest, and can range between 2 days to 14 days, and it's even been seen to some people, it's going all the way to a month before they can actually elicit symptoms or show symptoms. So like Tatiana's kids tested 1 week later, which is still within the window period, which is say between 2 days and 5 days as minimum, people can show symptoms, or it can go all the way to 2 weeks. That's why the duration for home-based care for being in isolation is 14 days. So that, and I think even that also informed the isolation bit, where let's say if someone had exposure and everything and they had to stay away for a particular time, to give time for the symptoms to show up. And again, remember, we have to deal with the fact that 80% of patients have no symptoms. So maybe it was just not picked. And sometimes the test can be negative because of very many factors, including someone is asymptomatic, meaning they're shedding the virus means the multiplication of the virus is very slow because the immunity is containing it. They have no symptoms. Or the sample collection, maybe the way the sample was collected or even handled can make the test positive. So all those factors put in place can actually mean that today you're positive, tomorrow, today you're negative, tomorrow you're positive, which could be all those other factors of how long did it take for you to incubate to show symptoms. Or otherwise, yes.
And when you're considering, for example, a positive child who needs home-based care, do the same protocols apply to children as adults?
Generally, they should, because remember, this is an infectious disease where the children will be the ones who are able to transmit. But most of the time, we are seeing that when the kids get it from an adult and then they spread it to other adults, you know, because kids generally, up to 90% of children or most of them don't have symptoms. They're actually just generally fine. They'll just have a flu or maybe a bit of diarrhea, and you just think it's the other things like rotavirus, or they just have the normal flu. So kids really, we are not seeing a lot of it, but we are saying in COVID, we've seen you can't say never. Anything can happen. But generally, the current statistics and demographics we have are showing that most kids really, they don't have symptoms, and they get it from an adult. But the same principles would then apply that if these children have tested positive, then they have to be in a confinement of some sort. But again, how we confine children is something that is very tasking, and it's something that we need to think around, that the kids to these families or to this couple or parents whose kids turn positive, how are they confined? I guess they'll just stay in the same room with their parents, because if they're all positive, then they can stay in the same confined space. But going out and holding up kids not to move, Gladys, you know how hard that can be. Yeah, but there's no choice. They have to be contained.
Okay, and somebody is actually asking, now that you brought up the kids, mother is positive, she is actually nursing an infant. How do you handle that?
Okay, nursing and the baby takes precedent. But what happens is the mother who's positive with the infant that she's nursing, and maybe she's breastfeeding, the mother is the one now who has to observe the measures, where she wears a mask, you know, throughout, to make sure that, because it's the respiratory droplets that come out that spread, and making sure they observe all the hand hygiene, and they're making sure that if they don't need to be nursing the child is being handled differently, and all those. But if they're breastfeeding, they have to keep on breastfeeding. But also the fact about sleeping in the same room with the baby, because it's about exposure. If you are exposed for a longer duration of time, then the risk becomes higher. So maybe the child will have to sleep in another setup, but if they have to breastfeed, the child has to breastfeed.
So you cannot separate them?
You cannot separate them. You can't say that the child will not breastfeed. But if the child is big enough, they can sleep in another space.
Okay.
Yes.
And now that we are within the breastfeeding week, the importance of continuing to breastfeed is because milk is medicine in itself.
Exactly. And the mother is producing antibodies that will be beneficial to the child as they're fighting the virus. So actually, the mother is providing the child with quote-unquote a vaccine.
Excellent, excellent. All right, now still on the conversation, in Machakos, authorities have set up a field hospital in a sports stadium as coronavirus cases rise. In an ordinary hospital nearby, patients in critical condition undergo treatment in the intensive care unit. Kenya has seen virus cases triple to over 23,000 cases.
Most of hospitals in our country set up, there is congestion. And we could not find like a place where we can fit like the 64 patients who are here. If we're in our general hospital, that means those are 2 wards that have been occupied. But here, with the environment here, most of them have liked it, not as they thought the environment would be. So they can have their time, they can walk around within those restricted areas within. We anticipate the capacity of stadium will be over 400 patients. We are getting in more beds and more materials in preparation. And also the new ward, the other ward, is we are intending to open today, anticipating the numbers of the patients as the numbers continue to surge. So I'll say we have the capacity, we have been supported, by the government concerning the same, because the disease has been stigmatized a lot in the community level. When several came here, they were wondering whether they'll get well and go back home. But with time, as we discharge patients, they have gained the morale. They have seen that it's possible, and we have encouraged them, even those who are going out, to be our ambassadors. Numbers are continuing to surge, and we are anticipating more here in stadium, and we are ready for the same.
Sikujua kama mimi ni mgonjwa. By then nilikuwa pande ya Uganda. Na resort zangu zilikuwa sawa. Na juu boda huwezi fuka na resort ikiwa ina expire. Nikirudi nikasema wacha nipimwe ndio nikitoka Mombasa nikute resort iko sawa, ndio nikienda kule isi expire pande ya Uganda. Nikiwa kwa njia ndio nilipikiwa, nikaambiwa resort yangu imetoka ikiwa positive. Yule anasema hakuna ugonjwa. Yule haja apatana naye. Lakini ugonjwa ipo. Lakini ikikaa kulingana na vile unaambiwa na madaktari, ugonjwa inapona ukifuata masharti.
And these are the realities even as the number of infections continues to rise in the country, with home-based care being taken in seriously as it caters for those that are symptomatic of the coronavirus symptoms. And speaking of which, let me bring in Ruth. You have been catering for those that have chronic ailments and need palliative care at home. Do you ever cater for children, Ruth?
At the moment, we don't cater for children because most of them are taken care of at our neighboring facility, which is Kenyatta National Hospital. Most of our patients are actually adults, so because children are quite delicate. However, if there's a need, our youngest has been about 13 years old, 12, 13 years old, but most of the ones that are younger than that, we prefer if they are managed by our neighboring facility.
Okay, I'm curious to understand why you have fewer patients, considering that some of those who take up home-based care is because they cannot afford having to keep their patient in a hospital, especially for those with chronic ailments.
Most of the patients who go for home-based care, you find a significant number cannot afford to be in a health facility for long. So you have to kind of now help them manage this patient at home, although sometimes their environment is quite challenging to offer that kind of facility because of space and all that. But we try to encourage them to have that kind of care at home, because staying in hospital has its own issues as well, because you'll pick other ailments and complicate your initial problem.
Okay, and the question was, why not cater for children, considering these are parents who are caregiving and who are giving them care and they cannot afford to keep them in hospital?
It is an area that we are pursuing, that we also would like to get into, to look after the children as well, not just adults. So it is something we are also thinking about, so that we can also pick it up and involve children as well.
All right. And while we're still talking about the same, have you seen more people walking into your facility asking for your services because they are afraid of going to hospital, so they'd rather you come cater for them at home?
In the initial months, especially April and May, when there was a lockdown, when everything was quite high, we saw an influx of people coming here because most clinics had closed down. People feared going to health facilities. So we had quite a bit of walk-ins coming to seek for our help, phone calls, asking us to go and see their patients. So that was there for the first 2 months, April, May. But from June, when things started easing down a little bit, the numbers have slowly eased down, and because people are now able to access the health facilities and their doctors.
Okay, and somebody is asking, even as your personnel go to cater for those at home, what are the measures you're taking to ensure that you do not transmit the virus?
That has been a great challenge, especially for palliative care providers, because there's fear both ends. There's a patient fearing that the healthcare provider will bring me the virus.
Yes.
Then there's the healthcare provider themselves. They don't know what kind of environment they are going into, into a patient's home. So they fear they could also catch the virus. So we just have to make sure the nurses take the necessary precautions using the available PPEs to go and see this particular patient, and just reassuring the patient that we need to see you and we need to give you the care. However, now when you go to the challenge the nurse gets when they reach this patient's home and they have to put on their PPEs, the masks, the gowns, and the face shields and all that to go and see the patient to protect both the patient and themselves, it becomes a problem for the patient because the neighbors, once they see you dressed like that, they assume the patient you're going to see has COVID virus, whereas it's not the case. You're just going to see an ordinary cancer patient who has been on your regular home-based care.
Yeah.
So when you leave, the patient is left stigmatized by the neighbors around that this is a COVID patient, whereas it's not the case. So those are the challenges we are facing when we go for home-based care at the moment.
Okay, let's go back a little bit to the nutrition point of view. And Stella, we talked earlier on about the advisable nutrition for those who've already tested COVID positive, but there are those who have chronic ailments on a regular. What is important in ensuring that your immune system stays at par?
Yeah, so we have the general rule for immune function support, and the most important foods would be fruits and vegetables. So especially the green leafy vegetables are very rich in some of the vitamins that I had mentioned earlier, like vitamin C, the zinc, the vitamin B6, and other B vitamins. So your green vegetables, which are very staple in Kenya, they can be either your kienyeji vegetables, they can be your spinach, they can be your kale. One rule though, for vitamin C, which the rest of the panelists also, emphasized how important it is for immune function, is easily destroyed by heat. So when you're cooking your green vegetables, please do not boil them because that kills the vitamin C. And so you'll be eating the right source of a vitamin, but you killed it during the cooking process, which is very unfortunate. So apart from the vegetables and the fruits, you can also incorporate some key foods like lemon. Lemon is a very good source of vitamin C. And like for breakfast, especially, instead of taking the common beverage most Kenyans take, which is a cup of tea, you can take some lemon water, like just take warm water, squeeze in some lemon, add some garlic. You can add ginger as well. Now, the garlic and ginger have been scientifically proven to have anti-inflammatory properties. And if you can afford it, turmeric and cinnamon are some of the other things you can add to your beverage. So even for helping to, to soothe the throat, because the inflammation on the throat or a hoarse, just feeling a bit of coarseness in the throat is one of the symptoms that COVID-19 patients are complaining about. So the lemon water with garlic, ginger, and you can add a bit of honey, that would really help to ease that problem. Now, in addition to this, the macronutrients we talked about, the protein, the carbohydrate, and the fats, are also very important to give energy. But in addition to this, your fruits. Right now, we have some fruits in season like avocado. We have, I think, lemons and oranges are most of the time in season, especially in Kenya. We have pawpaw or papaya, very, very high in vitamin C. We have watermelon, again, very high in antioxidants that are good for immune function. So nutrition does not have to be expensive. The staple Kenyan food, which is ugali, skuma, or spinach, and maybe a source of protein, is a very good meal for a COVID patient because the ugali is giving them the energy they need. The green vegetables is giving the vitamins and other micronutrients they need. And if you add an egg to it, which you said is a good source of zinc, is a good source of protein, is a good source of selenium and copper, that becomes a full meal that is healthy. And for breakfast, you can go for something like sweet potatoes. If you take sweet potatoes with some, you can have your vegetables from the previous night, remain. Just have a little bit that you can eat with your breakfast, yeah? So you can take your sweet potatoes, some vegetables, and take a source of protein. It can be an egg, it can be beans, it can be njahe or dolicho beans, any type of legume really, yeah? That is a complete healthy meal, and that is a typical Kenyan food. Something like githeri. Githeri is it has maize for carbohydrate, it has beans that has all these micronutrients we are talking about. Just add some vegetables to it to make it healthier, yeah? And I think the doctor also mentioned the typical plate that is generalized for half plate to be vegetables, quarter protein, quarter carbohydrate. That is a general rule that everybody can follow. Please don't add fruits to that. It would be more advisable for your fruits to be taken in between your meals, not really with your meal. And also, if you have a comorbid condition or underlying condition, please do not follow that general rule, because especially for diabetes, then your amount of carbohydrate will be a problem. You'll have issues. So what clinical nutritionist advice is also based on what you individually need and what you can afford.
Okay.
But generally, your fruits, your vegetables, cooking with garlic, adding some lemon, getting yourself some turmeric or cinnamon. Those are some basic things you can include in your diet that would support your immune system to work the way it needs to.
Okay, now Tatiana, we touched on stigma earlier on, and this is something that you've come face to face with, whether by self or from other people. What has been your experience?
Personally, so during the time I was in isolation, I received a countless number of DMs about the stigma that people are going through, which I have found so heartbreaking. People are this is the information I received, people are being shunned in their neighborhoods. Neighborhoods are chanting for people to get out of their houses, to leave that neighborhood. People are being called by their colleagues at work, telling them that should anybody die, that it's on them. There's just so many heartbreaking stories that I am so shocked about. So at the time I was receiving these messages, I was really, really heartbroken about them, but I hadn't personally experienced anything. So last week I left the house for the first time in almost a month, and I was so scared about how people would receive me or people recognizing me and bullying me that I decided to, dress up as if, people can't recognize me. I wore a hat, I wore an outfit that nobody could see me, and just because of the fear. And the whole way in the taxi cab, I was riddled with anxiety. I was almost crying. I was so anxious about the world. So personally, I really haven't experienced it. But from the stories I'm getting, it's just as if people just don't even want anything to do with somebody who has gone through Corona or is going through it.
It's interesting how self-stigma can work against you. Tatiana had to literally wear, dress up differently so people don't recognize her and probably treat her differently. What can you advise as a doctor?
One, I think it's very sad, and I think it's time that we all, as families, as a nation, as society, really change how we look at COVID. Remember the stigma around HIV back in the 80s, where we were losing people who essentially should not have died because people just shunned it. And I think it's a societal problem where we are seeing health workers being stigmatized. We are seeing neighbors stigmatizing other people. Let me tell you a funny story. So I live in a neighborhood, and one of my kids was shunned away by kids that are their friends because their mother is a doctor. So it's one of those things that really are hindering us from fighting this pandemic, where we are facing stigma that is, as you saw Tatiana saying, self-stigma. Then we have a family stigma. Then we have a societal stigma, and we have a national stigma, where even someone saying that Gladys had COVID, Gladys comes out really angry and saying, why are you saying I have stigma? That is stigma. I mean, what is really like anyone? And, we preach water and drink wine. We can't be telling people that, we have 80% of people who are symptomatic, and the people we need to protect are the vulnerable. But we do the otherwise, where if you see someone coughing right now, if I just, you just move away from me because you're like, oh, stay away from me. I think it's a mind thing, and I think a lot of effort and resources have to go into really fighting stigma, because if you ask me, 30% of the efforts we are trying to, out of the 100% effort we are putting, 30% is being lost because of stigma. People they are going into hospitals and they're giving the wrong information because of stigma. People are lying to other people and interacting with people because of stigma. People are going into places and they're not disclosing things and they're not observing the measures that have been put in place because of stigma. So stigma is really such a big thorn, and we need to get rid of it. And I really feel sad when I see a young adult having symptoms and not talking about them. So, someone has fever, they don't want to say they have fever. Even how our public places are running, where you're seeing people, they don't want to go to hospital because of stigma. So if they don't go to hospital, the outcomes are worse. If someone has an underlying condition, for example, and they feel like if they actually said, I have a fever, then things will change and everything will change. We're seeing complaints of people going into health facilities, and then anytime you mention COVID, everything changes downstream. Everything changes from how you'll be handled, the kind of care you'll get. So it's a really, really sad situation, being a healthcare worker in this country and being a normal social human being. It's very sad that we are really propagating it, and every day we live, we are doing the same thing the same way and expecting different results.
Very sad, and definitely something that needs, a message that needs to keep being pushed. We take another short break. On Your World, we'll be back with more. Stay with us.
Various institutions have reported over 800 million units of unclaimed shares among other assets. To find out if you are an owner or beneficiary, dial *361# or visit www.ufaa.go.ke.
Breaking news from Molfix. Let's see what they're developing right now.
Molfix pants with anatomic fit technology. New Molfix pants, an invention from babies for babies.
You should also try Molfix.
Pata smartphone mpya kuanzia 20 bob daily pekee ukilipa mdogo mdogo. Weka down payment ya 1000. Lipa kuanzia 20 bob daily kwa miezi 9. Piga *544# kuona kama unafaulu kupata 4G Neon Ray Pro. Si hapo sabari komuni yako kabisa.
To achieve great things in life, you must do little things every day, like the 1, 2, 3 with Colgate. The 1, 2, 3 with Colgate and give yourself a future to smile about.
Lisa, my darling, you know that I will never forget you. But life goes on. I think the time has come to give myself another chance to be happy.
My father spent 2 years locked away feeling depressed. You show up and everything changed. Why's that, Lashana? What are you getting out of all of this?
One thing's for sure, you need to find a way to fix this.
All right, you know what? You're not giving me orders. I know what to do and how to do it.
We know that's not the case.
Better leave me alone and let me do things my way.
Along came love, in association with Blue Band Peanut Butter.
When we moved from analog to digital, we took the opportunity to share our talanta. And the rise of local radio represented our voices mtaani. New ICT and educational platforms are going to make sure that no one is left behind.
Communications Authority of Kenya, opening your world.
Thank you for staying with Your World. Let's take a look at the other world. And scientists at a Scottish university are testing robots as part of a project aimed at easing the burden on care workers after the COVID-19 pandemic. The Ambient Assisted Living project at the Heriot-Watt University will initially focus on finding solutions for priority groups whose conditions have been compounded by the social isolation measures during the pandemic. The robots, including Pepper, who was launched as the world's first humanoid in Japan in 2014, have been programmed to perform tasks normally carried out by care workers.
Hello. These robots are the artificial intelligence necessary so that this robot will be able to work in our hospital, helping the carers working there, but also helping people at home, people that may need help with the physical aspect of care. This is our goal. But in this project, we are specifically interested in understanding what are the needs of the most vulnerable people at this time, and whatever technology we can use to make their life better. We will evaluate this technology and will understand what we need to do to make these solutions really accessible to the people that really need this technology. Will people with hearing loss or sight loss or cognitive impairment able to use that technology? When they can't, we need to understand what we can do, how we can use our expertise in robotics and artificial intelligence to make that happen.
So really positive actually. I think because the focus of the project is on the end user and there's a real sort of co-design element to it, so the innovation is going to be driven by the end user themselves. So everything that this project produces will be supporting them to live their day-to-day lives a little bit better.
2. 3.
Hashtag the new normal for sure. Now, for one young funeral assistant in Florida, his social life has been dead. His only human interactions are coronavirus victims at the funeral home where he works. But 26-year-old Bradley Georges says he doesn't regret his isolation. He says, "I see it as a blessing that I'm able to offer my services to other families." Florida, with a population of about 21 million, has recorded more than 5,000 COVID-19 deaths.
Since the beginning of the pandemic to now, I've done about 28 to 32 removals of positive COVID patients, whether they are at a hospital, the medical examiner's office. So, as I said, it's been very challenging since the pandemic has started. I do expect numbers to keep growing. I do expect us to keep being more out in the field now. We are going to continue to take all the precautions we need to take, and I see it as a blessing that I'm able to offer my services to other families or whatnot, because it's something that everybody wouldn't do. It has impacted my social life drastically. I don't spend as much time with my family now. I've actually moved to another location to protect my mom and my brothers as well. As far as friends, I don't hang with friends, as often because I'm exposed to this virus much more now. So
right now, there's probably approximately 25 to 30% more deaths in Miami-Dade County, but the people are having less funerals. They're doing simple cremation. They're not doing the visitation. they're doing something private. They might do a private graveside, but they're not having the big traditional. We've had a few big traditional funerals, but not as many, nowhere near as many as we used to. We are having to hold more families' loved ones because they're taking longer to approve the cremation, because in Miami-Dade, the medical examiner and in the whole state of Florida has to approve the cremation. So I am looking at alternate storage issues that we're having because our refrigeration units, we're holding more bodies now. One, unfortunately, in particular, someone had COVID and they took their life, and they had other complications too, but they had COVID plus other complications, and they just decided to take their life. And we've had a number of families, including one just in the last couple of days, where the person had COVID and then the children got the COVID too. So a lot of the arrangements now are being done by computer and internet and over the phone. We are fully embalming COVID people that pass away, and we're also doing open casket funerals. And according to the experts, if you disinfect the body properly and embalm, there should not be any problem.
Now, elsewhere, post-COVID unit at the Pedro Ernesto University Hospital in Rio de Janeiro helps patients who are recovering from COVID-19 and are too weak to go home with physiotherapy and rehabilitation. Clayton Ferreira dos Santos Physiotherapy says the job is to strengthen the core of the patients, to sit on the bed, stand with them, work on walking, because sometimes they can't, so they are really weak.
Esse movimento dói. De novo. 10 vezes, vamos. Tá? Vai fazer 10.
As the state deals with the stark surge in virus cases, Arizona's federal government has decided to step in and open a drive-through testing site at Maryville High School in Phoenix. The new site is offering free touchless COVID-19 tests to the public, where patients will be given a testing package with instructions on how to swab nostrils. And unprotected and poorly paid, an all-women army of health workers confronts suspicion, anger, and the threat of infection as they go door-to-door searching for coronavirus sufferers in India's poor communities. About 1 million accredited social health activists, or ASHAs, are deployed in cities and villages to administer basic medical care such as vaccinations and delivering babies. But as the number of confirmed infections in India soars past 500,000, the women find themselves on the front line of the battle against the contagion, identifying potential cases and educating locals in the hope of slowing its spread. And a British woman was jailed for 3.5 years Monday after tearfully admitting she stabbed her husband to death during a fight on the Malaysian holiday island of Langkawi.
After listening to both parties, the court handed down its decision and has sentenced Samantha to 3.5 years, specifically 42 months from date of arrest and a 10,000 ringgit fine.
Do you have anything to say, Samantha?
She did not intend for this to happen. And now people have heard that, and I think there's a sense of relief on her part. She's accepted the fact that she needs to serve this sentence, and I think that she acknowledges the fact that, you know, her life is lost. And I think she's looking forward to her own recovery. Actually, I'm trying to get some clarity from the prisons on when her release date might be. But it could be in the middle of next year, according to our calculations, but that's subject to the prison's clarification on that. Not really middle, maybe towards the end of next year.
Sorry, excuse me, can we have a few words from the family?
And back home, as we get used to home-based care and how it actually is being implemented, Tatiana, being at home, or the whole family, at least you, your husband, the kids recuperating, did you notice that there is a cost that is actually attached to the same?
Not really. A cost in terms of food and things like that.
Yeah, food, supplies, just being holed up at home. Did it make a difference in your budget?
I mean, okay, definitely. I think this whole year, to be honest, has showed me that I don't need to be spending as much money as I was before this pandemic happened. So, to be honest, this past month being at home has really been like the rest of the year for me, except I couldn't leave the gate. And I'm really fortunate enough to have that kind of journey because I didn't really suffer at all. So we were at home and I realized that there's a lot of things that I was doing before that I really did not have to be doing. And I've also realized that during this period of time that I really need to take my savings and finances more importantly, because should this have happened in a time where I didn't have work, this would have been really stressful for me. But thankfully I'm able to create content and, make money that way.
Okay, and speaking of which, most people actually are lucky to have a health insurance to cater for their needs. Did you have this?
I didn't. I didn't have health. This is another thing, I have to really take these kind of things into account going forward. And that's one thing that this pandemic has taught me. But during this specific 4-week period where I was at home isolating, there wasn't really much that I needed again. So it was I was living just normally, comfortably within my means at home.
Okay, and Ruth, the reason why I'm asking about this is because there is a cost that comes with home-based care, especially when you're offering palliative care. How do those who need your services cater for this? Do they have support from insurance companies or even NHIF?
Most of our patients don't have insurance cover. A few have the NHIF medical scheme, but they use it mostly at the public health facilities to access services like x-rays, chemotherapy, blood tests, and so forth and so forth. But palliative care is not covered at any insurance company, and it is something that needs to be considered because it's a critical service that is required. And once patient is covered under this, it's easier to decongest most of the health facilities. So the patients we serve mostly have to pay for fee for service. Those who can't, we still see them. But now what happens, because we rely mostly on funding from well-wishers and the fundraising, we reach out to friends or companies to support and offset some of these costs that we incur. So a significant number of patients are not on insurance cover, so it becomes quite challenging for them to access services, but we will still reach out to them. We offer the service and then reach out to a friend or a corporate to help us offset some of those costs.
Okay, Dr. Mora, home-based care has been a reality in other countries for a long time now. And for us to ensure that this actually outlives the pandemic, some of the things like just catering financially for the patients is crucial. How can this be realized?
I think one, I'd like to highlight, Gladys, that most of the insurances don't cover for COVID tests. Yes. They don't cover for the COVID, the expenses incurred in hospital. It's not covered because there's a clause that states that they don't handle pandemics. I thought we had gotten a good word that they'll be covered, but they're not. But having said that, I think it's time, this pandemic should serve as a lesson, and we should have a silver lining to it, where we are learning some things about health financing and how we should make sure our populations are covered, so that even in the home-based care setup, they can still be covered by a financial or health financial that can take care of the needs. Because remember, right now, everyone economic needs have increased, but the supply has actually gone down economically. So it's a reality that everyone is battling with the hard economic times that were even in existence before we started having the pandemic, and have just only gotten worse as we're going through this pandemic. And the issue around what can we learn from this pandemic, I think from all levels of governance, right from health institutions to government, to families, we need to ask ourselves those hard questions about health financing. And it's high time that even as Kenyans, even as me and you, we should then be able to ask anyone who we want to vote for, What are you offering for health? How are you planning to finance the healthcare of the nation? And what plan do you have in terms of ensuring that every Kenyan can get health, and health is there for everyone, with the concept of health for all? And how can we achieve that if we don't have good and adequate financing? It's a very important thing that is being brought up. And I think even as we battle and ask ourselves, how will we suffer through this and how will we come out, we shall overcome, and with all those things and messages of hope that we're giving, we should ask ourselves the hard questions, and what are the lessons we are learning from this, and how do we overcome those challenges that we've faced.
Okay, and as we talk about health financing, what is an ideal situation look like?
An ideal situation, Gladys, is where you walk into a health facility that one is not labeled as private or public. And you walk in and you can access all the needs that you need, right from you to your family, and you go home. You walk in and walk out. And that essentially, because health is a human right.
Yes.
Just the same way we address issues about making sure that we address poverty and we make sure that all other social determinants of health are taken care of, then health has to be taken care of. So that you're able to walk into a facility, you're attended to by the right specialist, the right person gives you the right medicine, and you leave. And the medicine that I get as Dr. Mora is the same medicine that Mama Wanjiku, who sells mbogas right at the village somewhere in Muranga, is the same medicine that she'll get. So that we are not stratifying health. We are not saying that there is health for the rich and health for the poor, because health is a human right.
And how do we now translate that to home-based care?
It should mean that then all the other, and that's why you're bringing a very interesting conversation about other social determinants of health, where we have housing, we have food, we have all other things. So in this case, it's the other societal things of right infrastructure in terms of employment, so that we take care of poverty. Are people empowered financially? Are they educated? Where education comes in, so that they are aware of their health and they are able to respond appropriately when they're given instructions, or even preventive measures that can be put into place. All those factors. So do we have employment? Unemployment goes back to health. Do we have the right people having the right education? Goes back to how their health will be. So that when we use the phrase, the health of a nation is the wealth of the nation. Essentially, it's literally and practically that. The nation is as healthy, is as wealthy as how healthy the population is. So that if we are not having those hard conversations, and we're just seeing people promising us, we bought a CT scan machine for a county hospital and we're supposed to be excited. How is that translating to making sure the health of that county is going to get better? How are we ensuring that that machine that is there, or those healthcare workers that you say you've employed, are actually going to translate to ensuring that we have the right health for your nation? So it comes from preventive to curative in every angle. And it's a conversation we need to ask ourselves, how is the financing done in our nation? And as much as we fight corruption and all those things, we need to have a plan. Yeah.
Okay, and over to you, Stella. You were very categorical that the government needs to relook as to how they also price some of those essential nutrients, so that every Kenyan can have a healthy basket, as you called it, to take in on a daily. Even as you give us your parting shot, what would you like to encourage Kenyans in as far as taking up their nutrition in their own hands, and of course the enabling of the same?
First of all, the right to food is a basic human right under Article 43 of the Kenyan Constitution. But that does not just mean that the government must feed the citizens. It also means that the citizens need to figure out how to also feed themselves. So this COVID situation has also helped to test our food systems, the national system and the community food system, and also at household level. How ready are we usually for such a situation? Yeah, because now we're in a situation where there is COVID. We have locusts that are really depleting our food in the farms already. So we're in a situation where most people are either not able to access adequate and healthy food, or we will probably walk into a malnutrition situation because of the locust situation. So as Dr. Mora said, I think...
Yes?
Sorry.
I
can't hear you.
Okay, we still can hear you. All right, I think we seem to have lost her connection, but she'll be joining us to make her parting shot. And Tatiana, even as we put a close to this conversation, Ian was very, very clear on how this battle, a lot of it is in your mind, especially if you are symptomatic. But I think the mental wellness and health of everybody at this time is very crucial. From your experience, what would you...
I think that a mental state is the most important thing at this time, just because, you know, you can get into that state of anxiety, panic, and all of that kind of stuff. So I think it's really important to surround yourself with your support system. For me, I'm lucky enough to have amazing friends and amazing family who are always checking up on me, as I said. And I think that's really important for you to have. So I know it must be a scary thing to go through. I mean, I was really scared, but don't feel afraid to talk to those that love you, because you're going to really need that support. And I also think that finding a therapist or somebody you can talk to is really important, so that you can get everything off your chest, you can get reassurance, you have that, you're able to have that support, which is super important during this time.
Okay, and Ruth, dealing with patients that need your services, you cannot ignore the psychosocial support, especially when it comes to their mental well-being. How do you ensure you cater for this?
The services we offer, palliative care, is a multidisciplinary approach type of care. So we involve psychologists, we involve nutritionists, we involve physiotherapists, and of course the nurse and the doctor. So where in a situation you find this patient really needs proper psychosocial support, you call in a psychologist to assist you in managing these patients. So we have people we work with, and we do call them in to come and help us counsel these patients, especially the ones who are in a crisis. So yes, there's a support system that we have, and it's multidisciplinary, and it helps us a lot to manage these patients. So it is all round, so the patients get a holistic approach to their care.
Okay, now let's go back to Stella. I think we have her back on. You were giving us your parting shot.
Right. So what I was saying is that at household level and national level, we need to plan better on our nutrition. And also, as Dr. Mora said about health financing, we need therapeutic feeds that are required, especially for COVID patients. We have some patients who cannot feed normally and might need either intravenous feeds or commercial feeds to support their daily nutrition. Those feeds are not covered by insurance, and you can find that one feed that needs to run for 8 hours costs as much as 9,000 or 10,000. Wow. And that is a cost that the patient would have to cough out of pocket to support something that is a basic human right like nutrition. So I think it's very important that insurances are also compelled to cover therapeutic feed, and COVID patients who require extra nutrition support need to be supported so that the immune systems are able to actually fight the virus. And lastly, this is World Breastfeeding Week. The theme is supporting breastfeeding for a healthier planet. And we need to support our mothers to adequately breastfeed so that the infants also have the immunity that they require to fight the COVID-19 virus in case they get infected.
Thank you, Stella, for those words of advice. And of course, Dr. Mora, even as we see home-based care outliving the pandemic, what should we keep in mind to ensure that this is a success? Because the government has been saying the success rate of those getting home-based care is actually higher than those in hospital.
I think we just go back to asking ourselves in the Kenyan context, how will home-based care work? And I think what I would like to finish up by saying is that home-based care serves a population in our nation, but I think we need to extend and look at the other determinants of healthcare that really need to be addressed so that this dream can actually be achieved across the board. So it's a matter of just being very cognizant of our situations and also cognizant of the social setups that our people live in, so that we empower our people, not just in the aspect of saying we will give them home-based care, but we address the other social determinants of health, of employment, social infrastructure, housing, and all those other issues, and nutrition, as she mentioned, that really ultimately contribute to how well and how healthy people turn out to be.
Okay, very well said. Dr. Yubrin Morash is an internist and, of course, healthcare advocate. We were also joined by Stella Kimani, a clinical nutritionist, Ruth Were, the CEO of Nairobi Hospice, and Ian Wafula was to join us. He's a BBC journalist, and he sent his apologies because he's not feeling too well today, but he's still battling COVID-19. Of course, Tatiana Karanja, who is a COVID-19 survivor, and she is a photographer by profession. Thank you all for being part of this very crucial conversation, and we shall continue talking about the same as we see this come to a reality and into the future. Before I bid you farewell, you've been talking to us about your experience with home-based care, and Mukolo Nisa says, truth be said, I can't dare go for the test. I hear you, and I think this is linked to the stigma we're talking about. Solmat says, we suffered and healed unknowingly. Is this the case? Well, most people do say that happened earlier in the year. Steve Gachanja says, what are those under home-based care doing best? Because the patients are recovering in big numbers. This is actually a very true thing, and I think Dr. Mora can touch on why that has been such a success. Anel Kaisa says, God bless all the medics and paramedics whom I call warriors against COVID-19 for doing a commendable job and helping others recover from this. Wycliffe and I says, so it means the government is not providing the right infrastructure, because from the statistics, home-based patients are recovering more than those in government facilities. Well, that has been proven. The government has actually come out to say the same. And Dr. Mora, quickly, why is this being a positive thing?
If you're in your natural environment, your mental health state is good. So you're in a home where you're very familiar, you're getting the right care with people who love you, you're likely to be at very good mental state. So when your mental state is good, your immunity is on the roof, because it means all your body is doing is fighting the virus and not really dwelling on the stresses around, do I have this food, or did I get my medication at the right time? And plus the love. I think the love really just cuddles you up and makes sure you get well sooner. Okay. So the outcomes will definitely be better. But again, remember, as I told you, the socioeconomic status of the people who can afford home-based care are able to access a lot of things that most of the 60% of Kenyans cannot.
Very well said. Well, we take a look tomorrow at the transport system in this country. Are public service vehicles adhering to the COVID-19 regulations, social distancing, staff wearing masks? Are those on your route coming or rather operating during this time? The borders are open now. How does ours on the road with a mask feel like? Very many pertinent questions in as far as the transport industry is concerned, and Joseph Orungu will be taking you through that conversation tomorrow from 7 a.m. My name is Gladys Gachanja, and this has been Your World. Have a wonderful day.
I help women find independence by training them in fish farming. It's tough on my back, joints, and can cause headaches. Panadol Extra relieves multiple types of pain.
If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
Taught us, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that we should keep cleanliness. Actually, he said that cleanliness is what is best for a Muslim. And from him, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, hand washing, which is part of cleanliness, hand washing, that we wash our hands, we wash our faces, we wash every time with soap. This is part of what the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam taught us.
There are different types of sickle cell disease, but the most common type in Kenya is sickle cell anemia.
Patikana kuna sickle cell anemia. Kuelezea babake, alikasirika. Mother-in-law akamsukuma sana, apate mke mwingine mwenye atampatia watoto wazima.
My pain usually comes like turn after turn. It feels like somebody is ripping off my skin and inserting broken glass into my veins.
There are several things that can trigger off a crisis. Low temperatures, cold weather.
We take time to understand sickle cell anemia and the challenges that sickle cell warriors have to live with.
You need to watch your weight. And Dad, reduce fat in your meals and most importantly, check your weight.
You're asking me to calm down while your ex is literally kicking me out of my own house?
Welcome to this year's Slimming is Possible competition. The first task is to complete a very simple task of running 2-kilometer race.
What is going on here?
Either she leaves or I leave. You choose.
Did you know there's a laundry bar soap that can help save you time, water, and money? You save by not having to use multiple products. And you only rinse once. For a laundry soap that can help save you time, water, and money, try Whitewash Extra. Brand power, helping you buy better.
Finding the truth in these uncertain times has become certain. Possibilities for business even more convenient with the Nation e-paper. To enjoy this and more, simply dial *550*1# for Daily Nation and *550*5# for Business Daily on your mobile phone and get 50% discount on the e-paper. Yes, for just 20 shillings each, the truth will find you and more possibilities right where you are. Dial *550*1# for Daily Nation and *550*5# for Business Daily today. Terms and conditions apply.
Breastfeeding is not only a foundation for a child's future, health and well-being, but also a critical element of worldwide development efforts to create a healthier, prosperous and sustainable planet. However, the COVID-19 pandemic and the resultant response actions by government have had negative effects on nursing mothers. As a result, their access to health facilities, inadequate human resource for health, leading to tasks shifting and/or burnout have directly hampered breastfeeding education and counseling services. On Thursday, 6th August 2020, the Nation Media Group will hold a live virtual Nation Leadership Forum from 7:30 p.m. on NTV. With the help of a panel of experts, it shall delve into this year's theme of the World's Breastfeeding Week, Support Breastfeeding for a Healthier Planet, and delve into how stakeholders aim to garner support for the practice of exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months of life. Nation Leadership Forum. Engaging society, impacting the nation.
Fact Finder from the BBC.
Just how free is the media in Botswana? We tell you what we found out.
Fake, disgusting news.
How a term popularized by Donald Trump rose to prominence during the Nigerian elections thanks to WhatsApp.
We speak to one of the influential voices on Ghanaian airwaves and found out what makes her tick.
And we look at how new technology transformed outside broadcasts here at the BBC back in 1948.
NTV, turning on your world. The following program has been rated GE. It is therefore suitable for general family viewing.
We clapped our hands and stomped our feet. Hi ho, hi ho, hi ho. A rig-a-tick-tick and away we go, away we go, away we go. A rig-a-tick-tick and away we go. Hi ho, hi ho, hi ho.
Wasiwasi. Wasiwasi. Nasikia kwenyu nyinyi walafi. Hadi mwizi akikuja kuiba chakula anapata mabawa za nzi peke yake.
It's really pretty.
And then I'm going to have like a mint leaf on top just to give it like a garnish or something. And there you go.
Wow. I love watching videos. It's so much fun. I can spend the whole day on YouTube watching one video. I love watching cat videos and any kind of video that makes me laugh. So here's an awesome video to make you laugh. Lot of talents. I can sing, I can dance, and I can act. And it's so much fun. Here in Wakilisha, we showcase our talent, and maybe we can discover your talent. Let's check out today's Wakilisha.
Assalamu alaikum wapenzi watazamaji na wanagenzi wenzetu.
Welcome to Vibe Corner, where we have opinion question, tongue twisters, and riddles. But first, we're going to start with opinion question, where you speak your mind and have lots and lots of fun. Here's opinion question.
I personally think that my dad should do chores because it's fun to do chores. Well, not fun to do chores, but it's good to help, and it's not only the mother who should do the work.
Yes, he shall do laundry because he's the one who wears the clothes, and if he goes to the mud, not my mom to wash it, his work.
I think that he's the one who wears the clothes, yes, and it's also fun to do chores.
I think that he should do chores because it's cooking. Cooking is actually very good, and I think he knows how to cook, so he should at least try making something, and it will be fun and end up well.
I think he should because actually it's not only the mother who should do all the chores because they are women are the ones who do chores. So even the dads should try rather than stay in the computer the whole time.
My father should do the work because traditionally they thought that only women should fetch water and cook, but even men have the work. They have the strength to cook. So it's not like they can't.
I think he should do the chores because the women are not only the women are not the only ones who should do the chores.
Both of them should do the chores because sometimes it's my mother who does the chores while my dad sits around, and sometimes it's my dad who does the chores while my mother sits around.
Tongue twisters are so much fun. You get to twist your tongue and learn new words. Let's see today's tongue twister.
Really, leery, really, leery, really, really. Really, leery, really. Can't. Really, leery, really, leery, really, leery, really, leery.
Really, lily, really, lily, really, lily, really, lily.
Really, lily, really, lily, really, lily, really, lily.
Leery, really, leery, really, leery, really, really,
really, lily, really, lily, really, lily, 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 really, lily, really, lily, really, lily.
Really, lily, really, lily, really, lily, really, lily, really, really, lily.
Really, lily, really, really. Really, leery, really, leery, really, leery, really, 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 leery. Lily, really, lily, really, lily, really, lily, really.
Riddles are so much fun. They help you to solve clues in a treasure hunt. And it's so much fun trying to figure out the answer. Let's see if you can figure out today's riddle.
I think the answer is air because air, you can't hold your breath for long, but also it's as light as a feather.
I think the answer is breeze or air because air, when you breathe, you have to hold it in, but you cannot hold it in for more than 30 or 20 seconds. You have to breathe.
I think the answer to the riddle is breath because even a strong man, a very strong man, cannot hold his breath for a long time.
I also think it's breath because no one can hold it for long, unless you're dead. And you can't hold it for long than 1 hour, 30 minutes.
I think it's breath because even myself, I can't hold it for such a long time.
I think it is air because even a strong person like my father cannot hold it for a very long time, and it's actually very light.
I think the answer is fire because someone can hold fire, but he or she can't hold it for long.
Also for me, the answer is fire because you can pick it up, it's light, but you can't hold it for long. It will burn you.
The answer to the riddle is at the bottom of the screen. Did you get it right? If you didn't, don't worry, don't be sad because now it's time to have fun, to explore the world and just laugh.
Wasiwasi? Wasiwasi? Nasikia kwenyu nyinyi walafi. Hadi mwizi akikuja kuiba chakula anapata mabawa za nzi peke yake. Nasikia tumbo yako ni chafu hadi minyoo zinatembeanga na gumboots.
Wasiwasi? Wasiwasi. Unasikia kwenu nyinyi wasafi, mchele ikianguka mnatafuta na helicopter thing.
Asiwase. Nasikia ni mjinga mpaka ukienda chini unafikiria Mungu anakupiga picha.
Wasiwase. Nasikia wewe ni mrefu hadi ukipigwa picha imeandikwa hapo to be continued.
Wasiwase. Nasikia kwenyu ni pachafu hadi nzi zikipita zinawatemea mate.
Wasiwase. Nasikia shosho yako ni mzee hadi alikuwa anasoma na cavemen.
Wasiwase. Nasikia wewe ni mrefu mpaka unajua pale Mungu anaficha blue band.
Wasiwase. Unasikia kwenu kumekauka sana hadi mnakamua ng'ombe na pliers.
Do you like learning new stuff about your world? I love learning new stuff. It's so much fun. And today I've learned something cool that blew my mind. I learned something about the Turkana boy. His skeleton was found 1.6 million years ago. He's 1.6 million years old. I wasn't even born then. That's so fascinating. Let's go and have an adventure on Know Your World.
Hello, explorers. Today we are zooming into yet another adventure. Are you ready? I am. Today we are checking out some of the world's weirdest cars. Let's go. The first car on our list is the electric egg. In 1942, Uf Electric, or the electric egg, had 3 wheels and ran on batteries. Decades after gasoline became the dominant way to power cars, and decades before electricity for cars was cool again. Its designer, Parisian Paul Arzens, worked as a printer and designed railway locomotives before moving on to cars. The car bubble was made of hand-formed aluminium and curved plexiglass, a novel material. Next, we look at the world's longest car. This car, named the American Dream, is a massive limousine built in California by J. Oberg. The car measures 100 feet long and has a jacuzzi, a diving board, a king-sized waterbed, and guess what? It even has a helicopter landing pad. Whoa! Imagine driving down the road